I'll call the City Election Commission meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Germaini,
She's excused.
Lamore,
Present.
Felder,
Here.
Whitman, Steelgrave,
Excused.
Vining,
Here.
and Mayor Clark.
Reason we're starting with this, we have, and the clerk will explain it as we go along, but by our charter, we're required to have an election commission meeting. It sets personnel to not only approve our minutes, but action the commission takes prior to, which is including an accuracy test of the equipment. So, but I'll leave that to Clerk Lavoie.
No, that was good. In state law, the requirements are that the election commission set certain things up for the upcoming election. Our charter does dictate that it be council, which is why we have the meetings just prior to the work session. So I'll begin. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And in your packet, that's attachments 1A and 1B. It's from the last commission meeting and the public accuracy test, which occurred right before the May election. So I just need a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder to approve the minutes as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
We can do an all in favor,
All in favor?
and then I'll
Okay.
call out when we can't.
Okay, thank you, because I know there's some that require a roll call, some do not. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Clerk?
All right. The next item is under commission action, and it's the resolution delegating duties to the clerk treasurer. Essentially, it delegates things like ordering ballots and reporting to the election commission, et cetera. So that's attachment number 2 in your packet.
Commissioner Vine?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution delegating election duties to the clerk treasurer.
Second.
Commissioner Vine, supported by Commissioner Lamore.
So I'd like that one to be a roll call. Commissioner Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
All right. The next item up is the absentee voter counting board. We need to establish the report time and the location. We will have 2 AV counting boards for the November 7th election, and I'm asking that they be approved tonight to meet in council chambers on November 7th, no earlier than 8 a.m.
So it's just a matter of approving that there will be 2, is that? what the
That there'll
motion-
be 2 boards, and they'll meet on November 7th here at the council chambers, no earlier than 8 a.m.
Very good.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve 2 AV counting boards for the November 7th, 2023 election, and to have the boards convene at the council chambers at Monroe City Hall on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, and the council chambers at City Hall at the discretion of the clerk treasurer, but no earlier than 8 a.m.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder for the absent voter counting board.
And all in favor is fine.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next item, which is the appointment of the election inspectors, you'll see a greenish-yellow sheet in your packet. There are election inspectors appointed for each precinct. They have all been contacted to ensure that folks that are appointed are not related to anyone on the ballot, and we've heard back from the precinct inspectors on that, and we have applications on file for all of them. So I just need a motion to approve the inspector assignment list as provided.
Motion to approve the election inspector assignment list as provided by clerk treasurer Lavoie.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder.
All in favor?
Say aye. Aye. Opposed?
All right, thank you. Now we need to establish the public accuracy test. That's the test just prior to the election. After we do the pre-testing of all of the equipment in the clerk's office, the election commission conducts a public accuracy test, which is an open meeting, and the public is invited to attend and encouraged to attend. We are asking this year that it be held on October 31st. 2023, that's the Tuesday before the November 7th election, here at City Hall, and we will need 4 election commission members to volunteer to do that, and we need to establish the time. And so usually what happens is we kind of have that discussion.
Okay, so at this time, we'll see who might be available on the commission here. I know that I'm available, so I'd be willing to participate. If there's others, we don't have the time set, but we'll have to look at,
And we can establish that time here.
okay.
So I think Commissioner Lamore, okay?
I'm available if it's before 9:30.
Okay. And it shouldn't take very long. It's a very short ballot, so. Okay, so I have Commissioner Vining.
We have on the, oh, and I see Commissioner Whitman has her
Okay,
hand up as
wonderful.
well. I know that
And-
we've had these in the morning as early as 7:30, and of course, it's open to the public as well, but we'll post that to make sure.
Yes.
So,
So you can establish whatever time you'd like.
8 to 8:30, somewhere in that time frame. Is 8 to 8:30
o'clock?
good for everybody? 8 or 8:30?
8:30.
8:30?
Gotcha.
You have a sufficient number?
we do at this
I'm
point.
unable to make that time, but
You
you're good.
say you are.
I am unable to make that time,
Okay,
yeah.
How about Paula, 8:30
Oh, it's
good?
8:30? 8:30 is good?
All right. So if we can just have a motion to hold the test on October 31st at 8:30 at City Hall.
To hold the public accuracy test for the November 7th, 2023 election on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. at City Hall, with the test to be conducted by the following election commissioners: Commissioner Whitman, Commissioner Vining, Mayor Clark, and myself, Commissioner Lamore.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder regarding the public accuracy test and just discuss.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
And the final item on the commission action is something I would like a roll call vote for. It is a motion to approve the resolution delegating the authority to the clerk treasurer to make any appointments of additional election inspectors if necessary. I would do that if somebody cancels. I have a couple of folks that are on the bubble, so there is a possibility. So it would just allow me the flexibility to balance properly and we continue to report those to the parties, so everything is we follow all the rules.
Very good. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve resolution delegating authority to the clerk treasurer to make appointments of any necessary additional election inspectors for the November 7th, 2023 election.
Motion by Commissioner Moore, supported by Commissioner Vining. All in favor, say aye.
I'll call.
Aye.
Oh, that's fine.
Opposed? Very good.
I do not have any comments this evening, so next would be commission comments.
Any commissioner comments? For those that are here that may have not been through this in the past, first I will say that I appreciate the fact that our clerk treasurer follows what the charter says and has this information. It is going to be available. When you look about the election inspectors, I know if you vote in person, you see that, but it does have the names of those that are volunteering, but also maybe their political affiliations as is required, and then who's co-chairs of those. So I appreciate you hosting these all the time, and holding this, I should say, because it's important, and I want to make sure everybody knows that we're following what we're supposed to be doing.
And all the information, it's public meeting, so all the information is available, and I'm happy to forward that to anyone who might request it.
Very good. Next is like citizens' comments. If there's any comments related to the election commission meeting agenda or inquiries, here for the podium. Obviously, the clerk is here for you to ask later or at your convenience. Very good. We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. That is adjourned. And then I'll just take a minute to set this aside. So we get ready for our the work session. No, you're okay. At this time, I'll open the city council work session. Call to order. Clerk?
Oops, sorry about that. Councilperson Germaine?
Excused.
Lamore?
Present. Here.
Whitman? Here. Stillgrave? Vining.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Present. Next item is public comment. So we, as we do for all meetings, have public comment for this work session. There are 3 items that are on the agenda that the manager will introduce as they come forward. One's on a fire marshal presentation. The other is about a digital newsletter. And the third is follow-up discussion regarding 212 East Front Street proposals. I'll just ask if there's any public comment at this time. Seeing none. Next item, please.
The next item would be under the work session agenda, so that's item 4183, Fire Marshal presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, presentations.
Yes, Your Honor, and distinguished counsel, I'd like to invite our Public Safety Director, Tolstead, to introduce our fire marshal.
I don't know, Mayor, City Council members, Clerk Lavoie. Thank you for this opportunity of allowing the Fire Marshal to come up and give a presentation tonight. When we brought this position on some 6 months ago, we started on this. I wanted to, as you guys elected to do that, why did we have a Fire Marshal? Why was this needed for the city of Monroe? And we thought it was important to bring forth some of what the Fire Marshal has been up to. But going back, how do we establish this fire marshal position? So when we started to look at what we wanted in a fire marshal, myself, Commander Smiley, traveled to other communities. We went all the way up to Livonia, Frenchtown, Bedford, and we looked at some other practices, what other fire departments were doing in terms of fire marshals. We found some very common practices within the fire marshal. We also found some different styles in which they went about doing their jobs. The one thing we always came away with was that the fire marshal's position, first and foremost, is for the safety of our citizens. And I can tell you that Chad Hudson has worked diligently these last 6 months to help establish this program, to build it almost anew, since it's been, I think, over 10 years since we've had a fire marshal, build it from ground up, seeing the importance of documentation, of preparing the groundwork, what those reports look like, and how to conduct enforcement here within the city of Monroe, all with the goal of safety of our citizens. So I'm pleased to introduce Chad Hudson, our fire marshal, here to City Council.
Evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Clerk Lavoie, City Manager Robinson. Again, I'm Chad Hudson, Fire Marshal, City of Monroe Fire Department. I've been in the fire service for about 17 years. I've been with the city for the past 8. I hired in as a firefighter paramedic, promoted up as firefighter mechanic, to lieutenant, to captain, to my current position as fire marshal, which I've been in for about the last 6 months. So what is a fire marshal? So a fire marshal's duties are commercial fire inspections, public education, and fire code enforcement. Fire marshal's duties are basically the same between the state and local level, except obviously the state has a lot larger area to oversee compared to someone at the local level like myself. So what does a fire marshal do? As I said, responsible for commercial fire inspection in the city of Monroe. So every commercial occupancy within the city of Monroe will have to be inspected by me at least biannually to ensure that they are following the fire code. Also in charge of arson fire investigation. So any fires in the city of Monroe, I will be there to look over, investigate, whether it's arson or not. Public education, all public education pertaining to fire safety will be run through me. So I will facilitate all those different levels of that for the city. Commercial fire alarms, when I'm here working during the day, I respond to any commercial fire alarm in the city. Generally, those are false alarms, but it helps with me going to those to look at the systems that are being used. Is there a problem with the system that we need to get a field tech out for, as opposed to just having my line guys, my captains run it. They like having me kind of show up because I have more intricacy working with the systems that watch over those buildings. And respond to structure fires. Obviously, as part of suppression, if anything happens with a fire in the city of Monroe, when I'm here, I'm also going to respond to facilitate that with the crews that are on scene. So what is a commercial fire inspection? So a commercial fire inspection is me coming and physically walking through the commercial occupancy. As I'm coming through, I'll be looking at some of the stuff listed here. So emergency signs, exit lighting, emergency egress doors, the doorways to leave the place, make sure that they work as they should. They're not blocked. Fire extinguishers, making sure there's a proper amount of fire extinguishers, the correct type, and that they've been inspected annually per the fire code. Commercial cooking facilities, so any facility that has a kitchen in it, whether it's a church, an assembly, a restaurant, a bar. I'll be checking out their commercial cooking establishments, their hood systems for suppression, air management, fire alarm systems. Their fire alarms are to be inspected annually by a company. So as part of the inspection, I'll make sure that that's been done. They'll provide me with the paperwork from those companies saying that it was done. There's no deficiencies with that system. Everything's good to go. If they provide paperwork that says different, then we'll have to go from there. Or if they don't have the paperwork at all. And fire suppression systems. So if the building has sprinkler systems in it, again, that is to be inspected annually by a third party, and they should provide documentation of such. Arson fire investigations. Like I said, any fires within the city of Monroe, whether I'm on duty, working in the office, or it's after hours, I'll be notified of the fire, and I will come out and look at it, whether it's just a car fire, garage fire, or a full-blown, house on fire. As I go through, if the fire is thought to be suspicious in nature, then I'll bring in officers from Monroe City Police that are also trained in fire investigation to work with me. And then they'll handle the chain of custody with any evidence gathering that'll happen on that scene that'll be sent out to the lab to try to verify whether it was arson or not. As the fire marshal, I'm also a member of the Monroe County Arson Investigation Team with members from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, Monroe Township Fire Department, and myself, and Monroe City Police. That team can be called out to any fire in the county by whatever agency that is handling that. If they feel that it's suspicious or if it's a fatal fire, then they'll generally activate the team to come out and collect evidence and figure out what caused the fire that caused the fatality. Public education. So like I said, all public education comes through me. Some of the stuff we do is like fire extinguisher training. So we have our fire extinguisher prop. We'll go to businesses, like we had the wellness event here. We have one next week at a industrial facility over on in the industrial park that's doing kind of the same thing. So we'll have our display out there, and we'll go through with the adults how to put out a fire, use an extinguisher. It's amazing how many people, grown adults, say, I've never used an extinguisher. I mean, I kind of get how to do it, but I've never actually done it. So then to hand them that prop, and feels like a real extinguisher, and for them to go and put out that fire and be like, okay, so I felt I could probably do it, but now actually doing it, I feel a lot better. With our prop, we can make that super easy for, small children all the way up to very hard for adults and anywhere in between. So I facilitate that. Fire station tours, if we have any groups, schools, churches, Boy Scouts, any of those that want to come through and do a station tour, they would contact my office, and then I would schedule that with the guys in the station to be there to provide that tour for them. Fire prevention presentations at schools. October's Fire Safety Month. That's when we really ramp up fire safety. Getting into the schools and doing presentations for the kids is something that we're looking to do in the future. Again, I will facilitate that, and I'll be the one going to the schools to meet and teach the kids. And then our smoke detector program, we partnered with American Red Cross for smoke detectors. So if any home in the city of Monroe that does not have working smoke detectors can contact my office, and we'll facilitate for our guys to come out and install up to 3 in the home in a partnership from American Red Cross at no cost to the homeowner. So inspection expectations. So if you're a business owner, landlord of a commercial occupancy, what is there for you to expect in a commercial inspection? So like I said, I'll come out, I'll meet with either the owner or with a representative at the facility. Some places, as the director was saying, do things kind of differently. Some will just say, let me have freedom to your building. I would rather have somebody that's a representative there walk with me. I don't know the building like they do. Some of these buildings I go into and that I've done so far, and they'll ask me, you know where you're going? I don't. I've been here, 2-3 times over my 8 years on various calls, but I don't know the intricacies of your building. So if you could walk me around. Like, okay, where you want to go? I need to go pretty much everywhere. I need to go into any offices, mechanical rooms, utility rooms, storage rooms, everywhere. So then we'll walk through the building kind of systematically so we don't miss areas. And as we go in, some of the stuff I mentioned earlier, I'm looking at exit signage. I'm looking at emergency lighting. Do they work? When you push the button, do they relight up? They should turn off and relight up on battery power. If they don't do that, that needs to be corrected. Egress doors, like I said, do the doors that are marked as exit doors truly exit? You'll get into these places where it'll say exit and you open it and it goes somewhere else. It doesn't really exit anywhere. And then door force is another thing. So I have to make sure that the door opens under a certain amount of force so that somebody that's not as able-bodied as others can get out. They're not trapped behind this door because they can't open it. Fire extinguishers, electrical rooms are big ones. There's storage in there. There's a bunch of combustibles. That's not good. That's against the fire code. That can't be there. So as we go around and I find stuff, I'll talk with the representative on what I find, what the problem is, and then I'll write it down and we'll move on. So at the end, I'll kind of recap everything with them. This extinguisher, this sign, this, whatever, and corrections that they can make for that. I'll come back to my office, document it in the system that we're using now, which is a new system, and then I will email a report to them. And then they'll have that to then use to get the corrections made. So correcting violations. So as I said, as I find violations, I'll go over with them what the violation is, why is it a violation, and how to fix it. Give them a time frame. Generally, it's 30 days. If I find an exit sign or extinguisher, you got 30 days to correct this. I'll contact you in about 3 weeks, see where you stand. If you get done sooner and you're ready for me, call me and say, hey, we got that taken care of. We're ready for you to come back out. I'll come back out. Just check the stuff. I don't need to recheck the whole building. I'll just check the couple things that were wrong. Occasionally, things can be such a safety hazard that would cause the occupancy to close at that time until corrections can be made. It's very rare, but it does happen if the safety infraction is that bad. Occasionally, it'll cause for me to get the building department. If there's something with the electrical, I notice their electrical panel is all messed up. I'm not an electrical inspector. That would cause me to then contact the city's electrical inspector and say, hey, I was at such and such, and I noticed this, and then now they'll go out and check it on their end. So I've been in the position for about 6 months. What have I been up to? So as the director spoke, there's not been someone full-time in this position for at least 10 years. During that time, some of our lieutenants were trained as fire inspectors to go out and try to facilitate these inspections, but it was very few and far between. So now that I'm in this position full-time and we're trying to get this going, full force, part of what I'm doing is trying to figure out, like I said, every occupancy has to be inspected. Some are annuals, some are biannuals. So we're trying to figure out who's annuals, who's biannuals. Generally, annuals are going to be our assemblies and our heavy industry, our highest threat or highest occupancy, so highest loss of life if we had a fire. So some examples are schools, churches, shelters. The last month and a half, I've been going through all the churches. There's a lot of churches in the city of Monroe. I didn't realize there was nearly as many until I started going through the list and making contact and going through them. And then our biannuals are businesses and mercantiles. Some of those are restaurants, stores, gas stations. Restaurants, if they have a high enough occupancy level, they're actually classified as assemblies. So there's that too, trying to figure out, is it a business, it's a biannual, is it big enough that it's an assembly and it's an annual? And then on my biannuals, I got to split those 50-50. So I do half this year, half next year, and then get that system going. So I've been working on figuring out who falls into what and how do I want to make it rotate through kind of smoothly, where if I come to you as a church in June, then you know that, okay, June of next year, you should be seeing me again. So there's some consistency to it. Also, fire investigations. In the past 6 months, I've had 4 fire investigations within the city of Monroe. I had one in Frenchtown where I helped their inspector, and I did one in West Bloomfield. That was actually a partnership with our former fire marshal, John Concierge. The company he works for, they had a double fatal fire in West Bloomfield, and he called me and asked me if I could come up. The director and fire commander both agreed, so I could go up and get some experience helping them investigate that fire. So that was a really good learning experience for me. Fire safety burning complaints. Those are obviously our outdoor fires, people complaining that people are out of compliance or whatnot. And then fire safety is just general concern. So somebody says, hey, I was at such and such business and it's a death trap. Okay, so I'll go and do an on-spot commercial fire inspection, just like I would normally, except I just kind of walk in and say, hey, we received a complaint. I need to walk through. I have had one of those, went through and found a couple things, nothing that was, they needed to shut the doors, but there was a couple issues. They worked with me, no problem. They got everything corrected and everything was taken care of. Zoning compliance. So zoning compliance is our new construction. When buildings are getting ready to open up to the public, I go out there with the building department, with the plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and building, and we kind of walk through the whole building together and make sure that nothing through the construction process got missed that needed to be there. So they're looking on their end, I'm looking on the fire safety side. Done 7 of those. Site plan reviews, new construction. They want to build an Aldi's. They submit plans. It comes into the building department. I get a copy of that for me to review from the fire side before they even break ground. So I'm looking at stuff that may not follow the code correctly, and then make the recommendation for corrections to them. They can fix it on paper before they break ground and put money into it and then have to change things. I've done 8 of those. Commercial fire inspections, I have 35. I'm closer to 40 now so far. Building out our new reporting system, like I said, the old fire marshal used paper. That was 10, 15 years ago. Now, obviously, digital age, computers. So the system that we use for our fire and EMS reporting has a module for inspections, but we've never used it. So working with the vendor and Terry Davis to build that out, how we want that to work to make my job easier when I get on sites to document the problems and then forward the emails to the representatives so they have it for corrections. And then reviewing event permits. You guys know events in the city, they submit their permits. I get those for the fire side. I'll look over it. If there's tents or food trucks, they might need an inspection by me to make sure, the tents are staked down. They're not too close to something that'll catch them on fire. And then food trucks or your mobile kitchens, so you have that fire hazard that might need me to look at it. So as the director said, the whole purpose of the fire marshal's position is to make the city fire safer for the citizens and our visitors through public education and fire code. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I'll see if there's any questions from council. Councilman Lamore?
Yeah, just wanted to ask, basically, what is the cost, the inspection fee that we charge?
So we're working on a fee schedule. Right now, there is no associated cost, but we're looking at possibly having one for initial annual inspection wouldn't cost anything unless you're over a certain square footage. So like the DTEs, the huge facilities that take multiple days to inspect. There'll be a fee, so we don't know what yet. And then re-inspections are free, but we're looking at possibly if there's a second or third re-inspection that there would be a fee associated with that. You've been given the corrections, a timeline to fix it. If it's getting bumped out, that there would be a fee for that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Paula?
Do we inspect apartment buildings?
So apartment buildings are technically residential. So the rooms know the common areas, they can be, but that's a tricky one. It's not as easy as, like our nursing homes and stuff that are very straightforward. So the individual apartments, no. Some of the common areas, depending on how they're laid out, can constitute open for me to get into. Yeah.
Other questions? See any? I just want to thank you for the presentation. I'm glad that you hear that you've
Thank you for your
connected
time.
with Mr. Jim Consier there with his time here with the department in the city. a long history, well-known not only in Monroe, the region, but across the state. He goes everywhere.
I talk
So
to
I'm
him a
glad
lot.
that you actually had an opportunity to work with him.
Oh
Does
yeah, he
great
calls
work.
me all the time.
That's great. Does great work.
Yeah.
Send our
Thank you.
regards. Thank you. Okay, director's leaving, Sue. So I guess, Mr. Robinson, next
Yes.
item?
Our next presentation here, what I'd like to, is regarding our digital newsletter. And I'd like to invite from our communications department, Director Jody Egan and Amy Moore, on their presentation on the newsletter. This was one of the council's on their list of goals and objectives, and they're here to give us the progress.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jody Egan, Director of Communications. I'm pleased to be here this evening to announce a new communications platform that we'll be offering our residents and visitors, an email newsletter. As per the vision of City Council, and thanks to your collective support, we've been able to expand our department in 2023 to include a communication specialist, Amy Moore. Amy comes to us with a wide range of experience the field, from media relations, social media, content generation, both graphic design and written, and so much more. She has a wealth of experience in digital newsletters as well for organizations, and this has been an invaluable asset moving this project forward. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Amy Moore, who will be presenting the My Monroe digital newsletter.
Thank you. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Let me just get set up here. Starting strong. Okay. We're all set there? Okay, I'm Amy Moore, Communications Specialist for the City of Monroe, and I'm excited to be here with you this evening and talk to you a little bit more about the My Monroe e-newsletter that we are hoping to launch here at the beginning of November. As you heard Jody mention and about this newsletter is that it is part of City Council's goals and objectives. We're really excited to have the opportunity to engage more with residents, excuse me, on an additional platform. I think this will help expand our reach in a number of different ways, and it gives us an opportunity to inform residents about things that maybe we have going on in the city and to help educate them on programs so that they can take advantage of everything that we have to offer. As you would imagine, lots of benefits come with having an additional platform to spread the news about what we're doing here with the city. For us, it's really important to have effective communication. I think we've seen it recently. We've had some large-scale events that have taken place here, and to have something that could reach more people to get them the information that they may need, whether it be about leaf bag pickup or something on a larger scale, I think it could really help. It gives us an opportunity to inform, engage, and promote, and I think a lot of those things all go together, whether that's promoting concerts in the park, whether that's promoting a city program that may help someone get a roof repair. Any of those things, I think, fall under that umbrella, and we're excited to be able to provide that a little bit more and in a different way. We really want to meet people where they are. You know, we see a lot of people on social media. Some people aren't on social media. Some people prefer those mailers that come to their house. Some people don't get the mailers that come to their house. So to add this on as an additional step, we can ensure that we are reaching the most amount of people who are working here, who are living here, who are coming here to spend their money. Our target audience right now is going to be our local businesses, community organizations, city officials, employees, and then of course visitors and tourists. We are going to put this on our website and on social media, so maybe someone doesn't live in the city of Monroe, but they're interested in what we have going on downtown. So they'll be able to subscribe to this newsletter, and they will get all of that information delivered right to their phone or their desktop. This is where it gets fun, the newsletter design, and this is what excites me particularly. This newsletter will be branded. We've talked a lot about picking different templates for different reasons. You know, we'll do
monthly newsletters that will go out that will look the same, but maybe there's one that we design that is specific to alerts. There's something that's happening right now. We want to get it out to you. We want people to look at that and know this is important information. This is something that I need to look at. But then we can have some that maybe are a little bit more fun, a little more lighthearted if we're talking more about events that are happening downtown or otherwise. We want eye-catching visuals. The platform that we've chosen, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but it allows us to not only use graphics, but we could also use videos. So if there's something that we create that we put on YouTube, we can attach that link right into the email so people can pull it up right on their phone or their desktop and see it right there without having to go through and search or click too many links to get there. So frequency, we're going to be doing this at least twice a month. So the first of the month, you'll see kind of a more robust e-newsletter. So this will have all of the information that we have going on for that month. You know, whether it's election information coming up in November, trick or treat times, any of those things can be kind of put into that newsletter. We'll do one in the middle of the month. Maybe there's some reminders. There's some things that are coming up that are a little bit later, giving people things to put on their calendar. So we'll do that. It won't be quite as large unless it calls for it, of course. But the idea is to have more of a pared down version. And then, of course, we'll have the opportunity to put out any alerts, anything that comes up, last minute, whether, flooding, information about what you need to do for bulk pickup, garbage changes, all of those things we can send out as one-offs. Or if we have a big event, maybe the hometown tree lighting, we can send out something specific just for that, and it gives people an idea of what they can expect, some of the fun activities that we'll have going on. So really gives us a lot of different opportunities to get creative and get people all of that information. This next one's important. I know the city has done surveys in the past, people very curious about where their information is being used, how it's being used. The company that we have gone with is called Constant Contact, and they do have a very robust privacy policy, which they list on their website. We will be taking that information to include in the newsletter and on our website, so if people are concerned about where their information is going, how it's being used, they'll be able to have a one-stop shop. They can get there and get all of the information that they need. So budget. We worked the better part of a month meeting with 3 different companies. Ultimately went with Constant Contact for convenience and cost. You'll see here it's just a little bit over $1,300 a year, and that includes a 30% government discount. And there are some ongoing expenses that may come up with that. Right now, what we're paying does include up to 10,000 contacts. So we have a list right now, I want to say about 7,800 people. So as that list grows, we may have to up to the next tier, but that happens automatically, and the cost associated with that is also very minimal. Launch plan. So we're really hoping to get this off the ground on November 1st. Like I said, we do have that list already built up, so we do have a large audience that will be able to receive that very first newsletter. We're excited to get that started, start putting it together, and sort of see how it organically evolves. And we'll be putting out a press release. We'll put some stuff on our website. We'll also use social media as an avenue to let people know what we're doing and give them the opportunity to get involved with that. Constant Contact is a platform that has a lot of really great assets to help you measure who you're reaching, how many emails are bouncing back, how you can do things a little bit differently. It even goes so far as to help suggest different headlines for your email to help you reach more people, to sort of boost that engagement. So we're going to look at open rates, who's opening our emails, what are they clicking on? Is there something in particular that they're clicking on we're seeing a lot of? And maybe that's something we need to send a separate email for. People want more information about that issue, so we're going to dig a little bit deeper and make sure that they're getting the information that they need. We're going to work on that subscriber growth because we want people to connect with us. We want people to feel like they can reach out to the city, that they're involved with what we're doing here at City Hall and what's happening out in the community. So we're really working to kind of boost those numbers and get people involved. And also, of course, encourage subscriber feedback. Is there something that they want to see? What are some articles that they want? Do they want to see employee highlights? Do they want to see what's going on at the water department? So that gives us an opportunity to connect with the community in a different way. And that flew by. Do you have any questions? Anything you'd like to ask me?
Thank you. Let's see if there's any questions from council members. Brian?
Thank you, Your Honor. Amy, just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
As far as when you gather your information for the newsletter, I'm assuming you're going to base it off of like our last council meeting and then build it forward towards the first of the month. So the last council meeting of the month will basically be covered in the first newsletter of the month. Does that make sense?
I think if there are, issues that stand out that we need to put in there, we'll also be making sure that we're touching base with all department heads. Is there any information that they want to get out to residents? Any spotlights that they have, or, really great stories that we can help tell that sort of humanize us as a city, as an organization, but then also gets information to people that they want to hear.
Great, because that's kind of what I want to convey. If I want to convey a message to the residents, that's something I can do through this, and it'll get out the first of the month, which I think is great. Thank you.
Other questions?
Really excited to get started. I have a lot of background in Constant Contact. I've seen the success that e-newsletters can have. And it's a really great way to, meet people, again, where they are. Everyone's on their phone, right? Everyone has an email address. So it's a really quick and simple way that they can have everything literally at their fingertips.
Oh,
I
Brian,
do have one
go
follow-up
ahead.
question. Of course, we're going to have some residents that are probably going to want a snail mail newsletter. Is that going to be a possibility for them to receive something through the mail? Or are we kind of holding off until we see where this goes first?
Well, I know the next step after we get this newsletter off the ground, and Jody can step in if I misspeak, but there is plans for a city magazine. So I think that is going to be the mailer, the physical thing that people will get quarterly. But in terms of this is specifically built to be a digital style newsletter. So formatting wise, that's the best use for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly?
Is this the same company, that is the hard copy that's doing the online newsletter?
No, Constant Contact is a vendor that just offers that platform. So it sort of gives us the tools to create what we want to create. I think we'll be working with another company here in town that will be helping us to put together that magazine. We're exploring those options as we move forward.
Your Honor. Is that the company, we had a work session and they brought some sample, oh, okay, yeah. Their work looked really good. Good job, guys.
Yeah,
Exciting.
Councilwoman's correct. We've had conversations, work sessions a while ago, and really we're trying to find the right medium to start in. And then, of course, we talked about that magazine, so people have it as a reference, but also it's comes out with articles that might be about staff. It might be introductions to who is your official here, who is the public safety and fire and police. And so you start to have those contexts as well. But Kelly, you're exactly right. So this is where we are now, and I think that's where we're going to go, still with the thoughts we had as in our goals and objectives to move something forward during this term. So I'm glad it's coming forward, and I think there's opportunities as we see how this goes, where we go next. Absolutely.
Yes, Mayor, and just to add to that, just briefly, Amy's only been with us a couple of months, and so we're so excited to move forward on some of these longer term goals and projects that council has had. And with the expansion of the department to have another person, that really gives us the skills and the tools, the manpower to move forward. So we're looking forward to pursuing that mailer copy to kind of filter through that, some of the noise of being online and social media, to give us more of a perspective. And it also addresses the desire for welcome packets. That was something City Council had talked about in goals and objectives. So we are strategically and sustainably taking on these projects as we go. And as you well know, our expanded collaboration with Impact is also on the forecast for 2024. We're super excited about that transition and utilizing that resource and working with them to kind of bring our video media more forward. So we are so excited about all of the projects that are coming up, and we really appreciate the support that council's given us over their tenure here, and especially with the last budget year, and having a new staff person, such a talented person, join the team. So thank you for that, and any other questions that we can answer for you.
I don't see any others. Thank you both very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, we have one other item on the agenda for the work session.
Yes, Your Honor. as you're all aware, over the last several council meetings, we have had discussion. We've brought forth 2 proposals for purchase of the city-owned building at 212 East Front Street. And I would like to take the opportunity in this work study to kind of explain to you where we are at with this process. In looking at the proposals and that we received, and I've been able to look them over. I've worked with our economic development team, and we've talked about all these things. But I still, to me, I needed to go back and figure out why we purchased this building in the first place. And I know that originally there was an intention to look at this building as a potential police station for our city. And I'm in the process of trying to review what were those proposals. I know that turned into a police station millage that did not pass. I'd like to analyze that data of why it did not pass. Is that still a viable use for that property? I want to examine all of those things that occurred first. And then we have gone through the different evaluations. We've looked at, I want to make sure that this is a sizable investment we made into this building from the city. And I want to make sure that what I bring back later to you in the form of a recommendation from me, as well as the Economic Development Department, I want to be sure that it is in line with our DDA, because it is in our TIF district, DDA district. I want to make sure that it's in line with their master plan. I also want to make sure that it's in line with our city master plan. And I want to make sure that we are getting the value for the type of the interest. So what I've done to accomplish all this is I am in the process of reviewing those master plans. I have also directed the economic director here to put together an RFP process to be able to put that out broadly, because we are still, even as of today, we met today with some people that were interested in this building. And I want to be sure that we are making the best decision we make with our property, that was bought with our taxpayers' money, that it fits into the plan of what our downtown is. And it may be one of the proposals that we have already received in the end. But I want to make sure that we do our due diligence, that I have the opportunity to do the due diligence in speaking on behalf of our administration and our economic development team. I want to be sure that what we're presenting to you and what we end up recommending to you, it's ultimately your decision. But I want to make sure we're getting what the purpose of this building that we have. I want to make sure we're getting a monetary value. I want to make sure that we're getting what fits into our downtown master plans in both the DDA and the city. And that's, I'm willing to take any of your questions in regards to the path I have chosen to kind of direct my department heads to move forward. And I'm just looking for some time to be able to do all this, to ensure that we're being good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars and we're doing the right thing, meeting the needs of what you all have decided and what we have brought forth and councils before you and you as councils have decided is our master plan for our downtown, and the same goes for the DDA district. So that's where I'm at.
I guess I'll start, see if there's any questions from council members regarding the manager's comments. Andrew?
I want to be very careful in my position here.
Yeah,
To
I think
keep-
you can speak to what his proposal is,
Yeah.
because it's about council action in the future. too.
I think some of the items are bringing up some of the old issues and broader positions on the city's economic development policy. I know I have opinions on the city's economic development policy and what we should be doing going forward. I know that I've not always agreed with the way that we've done things in the past. but, you know, the majority rules, and isn't it wonderful that we live in a democracy? Some of the reasons why we moved on these buildings were not necessarily the same reasons as what we're trying to extract out of those opportunities and those assets right now, it seems like. And so I think in some respects, it puts an unfair expectation upon buildings when we purchase them for not the same reason that we're pursuing them now for these RFPs. Now, I'm fine having a broader RFP towards this, but it was my understanding that the staff had met with, I think, 4 different developers to, I think Mr. Cochran showed this property to at least 4 different people, and these were the offers that we got back. So I'd like to know, if we're going to do that, how that new process is different than what we've done already. And I believe that the issue of a police station was brought up. It was my understanding that we explored the possibility of using this particular facility as a police station, and it was a combination of being cost prohibitive without, and I will certainly yield to the Director of Public Safety if he'd like to comment on this, but my understanding as it was presented to council, it was a combination of being cost prohibitive while not fully providing our department with all of the things that it needs to be able to proceed with a structure. And I know that also we took that to the voters and it was voted down in a 60-40 vote. So I don't know how soon we want to revisit that opportunity if the ask is not substantially different than what the public has recently been asked for in the past as well. So before we proceed with, well, how about this, that, or the other, I think that council probably needs to be involved in that discussion, because I think that there may not be a willingness to proceed down some of these roads as maybe the administration thinks that there is.
I'll try to answer your first question first. How this process with the RFP is going to be different is the RFP that was sent out was generated by individuals themselves coming to us. We didn't reach out to anyone. They came to us, and they wanted to see the building. They heard about the building. We didn't solicit for them to come and look at what was being developed. They contacted us, had an interest in the building. They were taken to the building. Because there were 4, they put out a short RFP strictly to those 4, not opening it up to anybody else, to those 4, and they submitted proposals to address that. How this is different is that we are opening it up to where we're going to put it statewide on the Mitten program. It's going to be out there. It's going to be a comprehensive request for proposal. And ultimately, we're hoping to get the best and brightest of people that are interested here, because we are still getting interest of people contacting us without us even doing that. And it would be, in my opinion, irresponsible as the city manager to not explore the options that we have to best protect and best value and best fit what our master plans are, both in the DDA and with the city. Secondly, it was actually members of council who reached out to me to reopen the idea of the police station. Well, in order for me to answer those individuals, I need to actually understand it. I need to research it. I need to see what was done. I want to know why it was done. What is the layout? What is the cost prohibitive nature? What were the specs? What were we asking to build in a police station? I kept kind of been in one for 30 years of my life, so I understand what's needed, what's not needed. I want to evaluate that for myself. If that was the original reason that we purchased that, I owe it to not only myself to be educated, but I also owe it to the council people who did reach out to me to say, well, what happened to this? Why can't we reconsider this? That's a question that I'm receiving from the council. I want to have an answer. So that's how those 2 things are different.
Okay. Well, I'll yield if my colleagues have any
So,
questions.
see if there's other questions, or I'll come back for additional conversation. Other questions from council members? Yeah.
To follow up on this new policy of doing broad RFPs. Again, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. We had spoke about it for the Spire development property for the former fire station. And I believe that we had talked about potentially opening that project up. I think it was then Councilmember Iko Angeli who initiated that conversation. I don't believe that it ever went to a full RFP. Is it the city's policy now that this is how we proceed with city-owned properties to be able to sell them off? Because I'm not necessarily opposed to that conversation. It's just, in my experience, this is not how we have treated city-owned assets in the past.
Well, I think the best answer for that, for you would be, is that when we look, an RFP, we want to send out because we have to make sure that what we have meets what the intended purpose is and meets our master plan. I can honestly say, in looking at the two proposals that we received, they don't match the master plan. They don't match the master plan for the DDA. They don't fulfill all of those items at this point. Now, in the end, they may be what was wanted and what is desired at that particular location. But we currently own four properties. All four of those properties are going to be included in this RFP, because if we draw attention from multiple developers from wherever, there may be a location that a developer comes say, yeah, maybe it won't work for this location, but we have these 3 other buildings that the city owns to where that may work. So that's the strategy that we're using for, in particular, the 4 buildings that we currently own.
So I guess I'll do a follow-up. I think, the RFPs, we've done RFPs with the city. I understand, I think Andrew's saying as far as regarding to city properties, I'll have to ponder on that, think that we have or have not. But I know it's, doing RFPs isn't a new policy, but you're speaking related to properties owned by the city. So as I think this through, there's been different requests or thoughts about, I should say, by council, what could be used. Went through the police station item. And, I think that, I don't know that we identified the location in the request to the residents when we asked them. So that was probably a part of the reason why that I recall. But I think that while that's something of the past, if the city manager obviously was not here at the time, needs that information, I think he should provide the information so he can come back with something that's at least a proposal from RFPs that meet master plans, meet the use, might be what it is currently being asked and might not be. I think the council needs and should have additional information regarding what we do on proposals on the use for not just city property when we have RFPs for other items we send out through our departments. So this is a work session for conversation for council if they have any input, because manager's kind of stating what his intention is to where he's going to go forward. I want to make sure that if council members, I'll just say, have other thoughts, they should share them with them now. So, Kelly?
I'm just recollecting. I definitely recall that when I don't know if we sent out a RFP or whatever, but when we got the numbers back on what it would cost us to develop this property, I do remember being told that it was cost prohibitive at this point. I don't think we ever said anything about the 212 property in the campaign, for lack of a better word,
Right.
to put the police department on the ballot. By the time we were campaigning, or correct me with a better
Yeah,
word
it's
if you
good,
have
fine.
one, campaigning to have the police issue on the ballot, we knew where the site was going to be located, and we designed it to be located on that site near the fire department. Like, I recall the council had already decided that was the choice, that the direction we wanted to go in. So I think we had already moved on past thinking 212 would be the proper location for a new police department. It was also mentioned about the proximity to the road. So there was like some safety concerns and other things. So I don't think that we had already moved on past the 212 property. Of course, at that point, I think we owned it. But we weren't looking towards developing that site as a police department, as a police station anymore. We had identified 911 East Third and that's when we started the design process. Also, I'm curious, what are the 4 locations that you speak of that the city owns?
Well, city or DDA, same
Oh, okay.
thing, but the 212
Mm-hmm.
we own, the Whistle Stop building, Monroe Optical, and Duffy's Towing.
Okay. And we want to put all 4 of those in whatever requests we put out.
That's what our discussions were today.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to
No.
recollect where
I
we were
think
at
your
with that.
recollection is what I have as well. Other questions or comments for the manager on this item? Andrew?
Yes, I just want to clarify the administration's perspective. There seemed to be talk of alignment with the city's master plans with each of these proposals, and there seemed to be discussion too of the price that was offered for the site. Which seems to be the obstacle when it comes to the city's perspective on this? Because in my reading of the master plans, I believe that there are aspects of both proposals that very much match what we are trying to develop in these areas.
Well, I would think that that it all would always depend on, number one, when you look at we're not talking about a bottom dollar, what the purchase price is going to be. You're going to talk about what the long term, what is the investment internally in that building going to cost? What investment is whoever owns that building going to put into that building that's going to raise the market value of that building and the buildings around it? And how does its purpose, the intended purposes for that, how is it going to serve the other things that are in our master plan, that whether it be the along the riverside development or whatever else that was in our economic development plans? I believe that we have to consider all those things when we're looking at this. At least we have to consider with what we present to you. Ultimately, the city council makes those decisions. But I would be remiss, the city council can make a decision to make a decision anytime they want on this issue. But I just feel from the administration standpoint, I want to be able to give you the best, most solid recommendation in looking at all of those things that I've already listed on what the city and how and what we're looking for out of all of those things to the best use of this of that building as a recommendation.
Andrew?
Is the city administration not recommending moving forward with any acceptance of any proposal at this time until the RFP is complete? And if so, what is the ETA on that timeline?
I would believe that the ETA on that timeline would be probably an RFP that would be out anywhere between 30 and 60 days, and time for review and the time for the crafting. So I would say hopefully by the end of the year.
Well, that's a good question, because anytime you send an RFP out, you have to have a timeline. When you look at it, you also have to accept proposals back, or at least for review. And then you have to decide if there's those that have value as moving forward, and there's discussions. I can't speak for that because I don't know what RFPs may come out. We've had those before, and then I think in my past where multiple proposals come out, then internally they're reviewed and then they put them forward. So I think what you stated is what I'm hearing.
It seems to me that there are aspects of this new strategy that's being introduced now, of putting in open RFPs for city-owned properties to try and get the highest and best use and trying to get top dollar for the proposals. And I believe that has been a position that's been supported by council in the past. But we now have in front of us individuals from the city who have made proposals, who have come to the last 3 meetings now, from both proposals, who've been waiting to hear back from the city for quite some weeks. And at the very least, I think that we need to give them a yes or no. I think that proceeding now with an open RFP after this whole process is kind of like changing the rules halfway through the game. I mean, at the very least, I think that we need to give these people an answer and not leave them in limbo. But it's going to be for my colleagues to decide.
Well, we're in a conversation with all of us that are trying to understand what the city manager is asking, what he wishes to do in making a proposal to the council so we have information to make a decision. If you'd rather make a decision without the additional information, I guess we can have that, but I'm not in a position to do that. I think anytime we make a decision, whether it's city property or others, we should be well informed of all the possibilities. I think you used the terms. What's the highest and best use? I guess if I don't have proposals, I don't know what that is. And I also have to think about the long term, about what it is we do in relation to properties. And this may be the highest and best use by what we receive, but I guess I don't know that now. And I'll just go back. This is the third meeting we've had this conversation. In hindsight, at the first meeting, we probably should have given the direction to the administration to do this to begin with, because I think as it moves forward, we're getting proposals that are different from the first proposal, and then we have others that are saying that where might be other locations. I think I don't know what I don't know, and I think I need to know information about what that proposal is, what the RFP finds out, how it's sent out, where it's sent to, so we have opportunities to review that. If you feel that's changing it, I'm just saying we're doing what it should be and doing our diligence to understand before we transfer a property, what's the long term, what's going to be the long-term use, what's the long-term results, what's the long there's benefit from the proposals that we've talked about before by organizations that have asked for to purchase or lease the property. But I'm not certain it's all inclusive of what may come forward. So that's my position. Other comments from council? So, Mr. Robinson, if I heard correctly, I think Councilman Felder did as well, about putting together an RFP proposal is what you're saying you'd like to do, and understanding that's going to go out and there's an ETA timeframe that's beyond a decision because it's not on tonight's council agenda for a decision. And this at city council, at work sessions, we don't make decisions. It's not about making motions. Obviously, somebody could request to have a motion added to the agenda, but I'm not sure that that's advisable at this point. So, other comments? Mr. Robinson, are you looking for something from us different than what you've heard?
No, I have just explained what my rationale and my thinking is in the way that I'm directing the economic development team and what I feel is in the best use of what is in the best interest of the city, as that is my primary concern. And unless I'm directed differently by the council to take some form of a different action, that this is what my plan is currently.
Kelly?
For clarity, when you put this, if you put this RFP out, are you looking for a developer who wants to take all 4 of these properties, or are you looking for a developer or multiple developers?
We would be looking for multiple interested parties because
Interested parties.
obviously all of the buildings that the city currently owns are different. They all have different value to different people. They have different interests to different people, and they could serve the city in different ways as there are in different locations. And, I also have to consider in the buildings that fall within the DDA district, I also have to consider what number one, their economics, what their duty and what they perform for us in the city, and the decisions that they have to make, which is their own body. And So I want to make sure that I'm doing all this right, straightforward. I am trying to get this done as quickly as we possibly can, but I don't want to miss something when we're talking about large sums of money. We're talking about an important possible cornerstone building in our city for future development in and around that area. I want to make sure that what we recommend to our city council, that we get it right from our end, and what the council decides to do as a body in your vision, that will be, hopefully we've given you all of the information for you to make that decision.
Yeah, I don't, of course, I don't feel I have all the information to make a decision at this point, but I'm trying to understand right now, will all four of these buildings be in one proposal if you put out a proposal?
Well, I believe the
For
way that
these-
the RFP lists it, they'll list the different properties and the different things, and they're opening them up for people. It's to basically get the word out that we have buildings. They're in different stage of development. They're in different stages of reconstruction, et cetera, abatement, et cetera. But we wanted to see if we're going to put it out, we might as well add these other buildings with all of this to see what other interest we get.
Because I guess that makes me curious as to why did we get presented with all of that other information about the two companies that were interested from the beginning? How did we get there with the
Well, as they pursued us, they came to us with interest in that building. And when they put a purchase agreement, they have their own reasons and their own timings and their own interest in having them, decisions be made based on their needs. And all of those, when we receive them, we need to present them to you. You have to be able to look at them and review them. And you could have made a decision on the first meeting. You could make a decision today if we added an agenda item. You could make a decision at any point in time. I'm just explaining that from the city's administration part, we want to do our due diligence to ensure that we are making the best recommendation, and we're providing you with as much information so that you have the ability to make those decisions that is in the best interest of our city.
Other questions?
I have no more items for the work session agenda.
Council have any other items? Any items on the council meeting that you wish to ask the administration questions out before the city council meeting at 7:30? We have about 5 minutes. If there's no other conversation, no other questions? Well, we had public comment time at the beginning, but I'll entertain if there's a conversation. We have 5 minutes. If somebody wants to say, follow up to the discussion, I'll be glad to take a comment. But be mindful, there's other people here, and if others want to speak, we have to be finished in time to start our meeting on time. Thank you.
My name is Mike Trapp. Yesterday was my 17th anniversary as the executive director of the River Raisin Center, and we're one of those that put in this proposal. At the River Raisin Center, our buildings are in use 360 days of every year. We have dance classes, music lessons, we have musicals, ballets, which CBS in Detroit said we're the best place to see ballet in the entire region. We do private lessons, public lessons, we rent out, we give many opportunities. Every one of them is supported by our dance studio. And our dance studio is essentially going away. We need the space. We heard about 212 being available, and we put in a proposal based on what the last proposal was that was accepted and then rejected. We need the space. and we need the space as soon as possible. We bring 50, 60,000 people every year downtown. We've been looking for a new space that meets our needs for about 2 years. And there isn't any place in the city. We want to stay downtown. Now, I've read the master plan. I've read all these studies that say Monroe needs cultural and creative outlets. And it's one of the few places that we have not improved. The River Raisin Center is the cultural center of this region. We hire more artists than any other organization in the county. They work for us. We bring people to the city, we bring culture to the city, and all of that is supported by our dance academy. If our dance academy cannot find a space, then we will not be able to support the rest of the theater. Now, I understand the point. If you're looking for bottom dollar, we're a nonprofit. I recognize that. We feel we made a fair offer of $300,000 because that's what basically we were told it was worth by the city. So we need help. We're a nonprofit, but we do not get tax dollars from the city or the state or anybody else. We need help. We're asking the city for help by looking at this and recognizing that we have this need, and this is an opportunity to support the River Raisin Center. That's all we're asking, but I can't wait 6 months. As Mr. Felder said, please put it up for vote and either accept it or reject it so that we can move on. If I have to move on, it will be someplace else out of the city. I recognize that. It's just the way things are because I need big open space, and this building was perfect for us. And that's it. I'm asking for your help for the River Raisin Center. Thank you.
Thank you. So I asked, is there any other comments? Because we have about 3 minutes and we need to prepare for the next meeting. Okay, seeing none. At this point, being a work session, we're adjourned and we Call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine.
Present.
Felder. Whitman. Here. Vining.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Present. I'd ask we all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We have faith and hope in each other and our city. We ask for your guidance in the decisions that are made here this evening. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the approval of the regular agenda.
Mr. Robinson, any items for amendments to the agenda? Any items of consideration from council? Very well. Clerk, next item, please.
I think we need to make a.
I guess we need to approve the agenda first, right? Okay, sorry.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Moore, supported by Councilman Felder to approve the regular agenda. Clerk, please call the roll.
Moore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Steelgrave?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and for item B, approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $995,810.46, 995,810.46.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda? Councilman Felder.
Yes, Your Honor. If I could have item 4266 and 4265 pulled.
No, okay. Councilman Vining?
I also had 426.
Okay.
So I have some.
Very good. Any other items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, are there any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? A couple of meetings ago, we had a gentleman that wanted to speak on an item, so those are items that are on the first and second page. It goes into the third page. The item numbers are there, the topics are there, so if there's an item that's listed there that you wanted to have a conversation about, not talking about the presentations or the council action, those items will come before council for a vote. And a consent agenda means if the items pulled as were being requested, there'll be conversation on. The other items will not, and they simply be passed as a overall consent agenda motion. So I'm going to ask again, any items on the consent agenda, those present here this evening, wish to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, motion, Councilman Fellner.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that all items not pulled for further discussion on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the consent agenda not pulled for further discussion be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Steelgrave? Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. And those items pulled go under the council action where there's discussion. So clerk, next, they'll be last.
The next item is under presentation, communications, and public hearings. It's item 4264, PUD 23-001, proposed Mason Run Amendment, public hearing / presentation.
Manager Robinson, this presentation for council and the community.
Mayor and council members, this is an opportunity, a presentation by our Deputy Director of Economic Development, Matt Vanasacker. It's regarding the Mason Run PUD, and I think it's good that he gives the presentation first and then the public hearing to be held after.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Oh, no, that's okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Matt Vanasacker, Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development and Neighborhood Services Coordinator for the city. I'm here this evening prior to the public hearing to provide some brief background of this proposal request and then show some slides highlighting key items in the Mason Run 2.0 pattern book, which you will be considering this evening. Of course, if you have any questions, we will have time at the end to answer those. So just to present just some brief background, before you this evening is a request from Infinity Homes to amend the existing Mason Run Planned Unit Development Agreement and Pattern Book for parcels 59-01788-908, 909, 905, and 910. And please note in your packet, there was a mistake on the physical application, which called out 901 instead of parcel 910. So just note that as we move forward. Parcels 59-0178-905 is owned by Deborah and Thomas Graybetts, and the other three parcels for your consideration this evening are owned by Mason Run 2 LLC. Infinity Homes has these parcels currently under contract and are in their due diligence process for the parcels, which includes securing assurances that zoning is favorable before executing a sale. As a reminder, tonight's discussion is strictly pertaining to the 4 parcels mentioned above. Infinity Homes is proposing a total of 34 single-family homes on these 4 parcels. They're also planning 23 single-family homes using the existing pattern book on previously undeveloped lots that have already been split within the existing Mason Run PUD. I won't get too far in depth on the history of the PUD as it was the major focus of Council's work session on September 5th. What I will reiterate is that the original plan was approved in February of 2000 and a pattern book followed in 2001. The plan and pattern book proposed a number of phases from Elm Street north to the Frenchtown Charter Township line. And in reviewing the master plan and various other community planning documents, the focus and intent of the entirety of the existing Mason Run planned unit development has always been continued residential development and neighborhood amenities. The neighborhood is called out explicitly in the city's 2017 master plan with key actions for the neighborhood listed on page 135. These actions include reevaluating the existing PUD to consider current housing needs and market demands, developing a strategy to market remaining project areas to prospective residential developers, preparing a landscape plan to improve the buffer between Mason Run and the railway, and then identifying an additional east-west connection to Maple Boulevard. I've included this slide to illustrate the process and consideration taken on this request to this point. The priority of this effort was twofold. One, to ensure that the existing neighborhood character and charm was prevalent in the proposed new development, while opening Infinity Homes and future development partners to refresh trends and architectural standards more in line with what we're seeing currently in the housing market. And then 2, that we continue to attract residential development in the city of Monroe and look for ways to introduce new residential development in accordance with City Council's goals and objectives. Again, I wanted to highlight that assisting city staff in this process was planning consultant MKSK, and then also assisting them was Urban Design Associates, who assisted the city of Monroe in the creation of the original pattern book back in 2001. And this partnership ensured that the revised pattern book contained the same principles that guided the original neighborhood development. Now to get into the plan and pattern book. Looking at the map, you'll see the breakdown of the area proposed in the PUD plan. The area in yellow is the existing Mason Run PUD and pattern book, and the area in blue is the area that is being proposed for this new Mason Run 2.0 pattern book and plan. The original pattern book was completed in March of 2001 with a goal of modeling the neighborhood off the character of Monroe's historic neighborhoods. It consists of 3 primary sections. First and foremost, community patterns. Secondly, architectural patterns. And then lastly, landscape guidelines. The 2.0 pattern book is molded by the 10 principles of new urbanism, which were the driving force in the prior plan. And you can see those principles listed here. The intent for the 2.0 pattern book is to create flexible and updated design standards, as I had mentioned, for the proposed Infinity Homes development. The pattern book creates this flexibility while maintaining relevant and key pieces from the existing pattern book, specifically pedestrian-scaled neighborhoods, variety of housing types and sizes, variety of architectural details and styles, minimal common setbacks, park-like streetscapes, variety of open spaces, first floor above grade, front porches, porticos, and garages behind or set back from main facades. The 2.0 pattern book expands upon the 3 primary sections included in the existing pattern book and moves to 7 standards. And I'll touch on each one of these briefly. First and foremost, neighborhood standards, focusing on the walkability of the neighborhood and dynamic between pedestrian, non-motorized, and motorized traffic. Also carries over the call out of maximizing green space, which is proven to have positive effects on health and well-being. In addition to that, on-site standards, focusing on pedestrian access from the sidewalk and driveway to the primary residential structure. It includes open and public space standards, focusing on connecting the community, emphasizing the natural environment, and creating a framework for additional neighborhood amenities. A primary carryover is the boulevard styling of roadways and trees lining the streetscape, which has become a feature of the neighborhood as those trees have started to grow up a bit since the inception. Arguably, one of the most important factors in maintaining existing charm and character are the architectural standards, which are carried over and outlined here. Porches and entrances focus on the porch as the transition from the public to the private realm. The communication that takes place on a porch, really kind of bridges the seclusion of your home with your public interaction and public facing. Windows, consistent proportions, orderliness and trim, detailing consistent with the existing homes in the neighborhood. Doors must contain the same proportions as the windows with a focus on transparency and trim. Garages designed as such that they are not the focal point of the front facade and are located behind the principal building line. In a similar fashion to the existing pattern book, building materials are called out and have been updated to match advancements in building technology. You'll notice a number of different building materials called out here, while retaining a number of the ones existing as well. Landscape standards. Specific landscaping standards are called out in the new pattern book. Some highlights include standards on percentages, planting types, screening standards, which are very important, obviously, considering the proximity to the railway, maintenance requirements, and requirements on diversity of planting types. In addition to the landscaping standards called out in this slide, you'll notice that since the last Planning Commission meeting, city staff and MKSK went back due to comments from both the citizens and planning commissioners pertaining to the lack of native plantings and impact on wildlife at the previous session, and had them include native plantings as preferred options in the area to support natural habitats. You can find the native plantings listed in your packet with the full pattern book. And it's also available online under the agenda item for this today. Lots illustrates 4 lot layouts and types that meet the requirements for diversity of housing types and the principles of new urbanism. Given the nature of the lots proposed, there is some room for some slightly larger lot splits on a few of the parcels, so this creates the standards for larger lot types, in addition to the existing sizes we see in the neighborhood today. Elevations. This shows a few of the proposed options for acceptable elevations in the new pattern book. This came after about 3 to 4 revisions back and forth between Infinity Homes city staff, MKSK, and Urban Design Associates. It demonstrates a number of the architectural standards that Infinity Homes will have to abide by in their proposed construction. The bottom photos show inspiration used in creating the standards. And lastly, color palette. Expands the existing acceptable color palette to include some updated and modernized color options. These examples are taken from the Sherwin-Williams collection. Developers have the right to propose additional colors, but these colors must be vetted by the Administrative Site Plan Review Committee to determine if the proposed color meets the intent of the pattern book and the existing character of the neighborhood. And just in summary from the Planning Commission meeting, based upon our staff analysis of the proposed plan and pattern book, and taking into account the existing and future characteristics and intent of the sites laid out in the city master plan, the Citizens Planning Commission, in accordance with the city's Economic and Community Development Department, is recommending 2 actions this evening. First, a recommendation that City Council amend the existing PUD plan and agreement for the Mason Run development to remove the parcels listed in your packets there. And then secondly, a recommendation that City Council approve the new plan and pattern book, which will be referred to as Mason Run 2.0 plan and pattern book, to guide development at these parcels. Next steps would be for, barring, if this is approved this evening, the next step would be for Infinity Homes and the city to work together on finalizing a planned unit development agreement, similar to the agreement that I included in your packets, which was originally entered into by Crosswinds Development. And so this would be the next step. And additionally, Mr. Reno Suave, founder and owner of Infinity Homes, is present to speak on behalf of the project as well. So with that, I will defer to you, Mr. Mayor, for how you would like to proceed.
Sure. I'll see if there's any questions from the council for Matt. If there's any questions for him, if not, we'll go to the public hearing. Councilman Felder.
Indeed, thank you, Your Honor. The city, of course, in its goals and objectives, highlighted housing as a big initiative this term. We had discussions previously about missing middle and providing increased density for city environments, and I'm very happy to see the walkability being emphasized here and the rear-facing garage doors. I think that's all wonderful. Can you give me an idea as to the density per acre as for this PUD as it compares to other your average Monroe neighborhood, maybe a single detached neighborhood?
I would say, looking at some of the proposed splits that were offered up, I think in the staff analysis, it seems like some of them may be slightly larger than a standard lot, but all are intended at this point to be single-family homes. So they would be a standard single-family home density, just slightly larger than what you would see currently in the existing neighborhood.
So we're not anticipating any increase in density as per what we'd usually expect.
Just aside from the homes that are proposed at this point in time, I think the pattern book allows for some flexibility to increase density if needed, but at this time it's not being proposed at the site.
Fair enough. I'm certainly very happy to hear about the native plants, especially given this neighborhood's proximity to the river and other waterways with the drain nearby. I know how much money we invest into fighting invasive species in our community. I saw that 25% of the front yard was to be planted. That's in my understanding, my reading of that is essentially a flower garden. Are edible food gardens and rain gardens also acceptable?
If it falls within the required or I should say permitted planting types, it would be acceptable. I'm not 100% sure at the moment on garden plantings, but I would imagine that it's flexible to include that as well.
And I look somewhat at our city attorney over there to see if this coincides with and is allowable by current city ordinance as well.
Yeah.
Regarding our noxious weed policy.
I will say, I mean, everything in the pattern book is applicable to the city's existing ordinances if you're comparing it to
Let me
the-
state for the record, I'm very in favor of edible food gardens and rain gardens. I want to
Yep.
make sure that they are allowable and would like to promote their use in the future.
Yes.
And I guess the purpose of the question is to ask whether or not they would be allowable.
Are you asking in the front yard? Is that what you're asking?
front
Expectation
or
of what the presentation said is that 25%
That
of
might
the
be
front
your
yard was to be
expectation. I want
planted.
to know what the ordinance says and if it's allowable currently.
Yeah. I can definitely
I don't-
get you that answer.
I don't believe it is, but I don't believe it is in the current ordinance. But that's why we're waiting here for his attorney looks it up. Somebody else has the answer.
So Your Honor, if I may, I'll speak to it from the standpoint of the weed tree refuse ordinance. That's where we define what is permitted and not permitted, and height of grasses and weeds, and all of those type of items. Here we have to remember the PUD is going to implement additional standards beyond what the ordinance would be. So even if it were permissible under the ordinance, the question is going to be, is it listed as permissible plantings in the PUD agreement? And I guess I'd say we have to turn to that for the answers, and I can scroll there if that need be.
I can also get that answer fairly quick.
If we could get that answer at some point, it doesn't need to be right now. And then by what means are we establishing the border between what is planted and what is not? I know that we've had issues in the past of some yards being a little bit overgrown and there being some discussion of, oh, well, does the yard stop here? And no, that's part of my flower garden. Or no, you need to mow that and keep it to the 6-inch, 8-inch level, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So is there a border required as part of that? Does it just need to be clearly delineated? I'm asking because I know that these are issues that we've ran into in the past.
I think at least in terms of this PUD agreement, it only offers up a minimum percentage of planting. I don't know if it offers a maximum, if that answers your question.
Not quite. The border material and method of delineation between, when I say yard, I mean the colloquial grass,
right, where
where your lawn is, as opposed to where your flower gardens are. I understand that in the city zoning policy, front yard means everything in front of the house. Answers at a later date, it seems. Okay.
Oh, of course.
So Matt, what you're speaking here this evening and regarding what will come in a public hearing, but also as the council item, action item, is what's in your one slide there, that is Mason Run 2, is that correct?
Yes.
It's the blue area that's on the map, correct? That's what we're talking about here this evening.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that to make sure that we're not looking at things as through what's known as the high property all the way back.
Correct.
Okay. Other questions from council for Matt? Councilwoman Vining?
Is this pattern book 2.0 just for those 23 properties, that blue section?
Yep, just for the four properties that these currently are, I think the number of homes proposed, the 23 infill lots on kind of the existing Mason Run Boulevard and next would be required to follow the existing pattern book, as some of those lots are already split in terms of size. So what Infinity Homes is essentially asking is for some flexibility and new design standards for the undeveloped 4 parcels that we're considering here this evening.
Okay. 2.0 is only for these
Yes.
properties.
Yep.
So any further development will have to follow the.
It would have to go through the same process again. If someone came and said that they wanted to, or they were interested in, moving forward on the high property, for example, it would have to go through this process once again.
And then we create another pattern book.
It depends. If there's a will to follow, or for the developer to follow, one of the original, if they want to follow the original pattern book, they're welcome to it. If they would like to go by the second pattern book or a further pattern book, it would have to go back and go through this process once again.
Okay. So you showed pictures and some were cottage style, some were townhome. Some were townhome, some were, yeah. So is that just giving us an idea of what the developer on the next
Next slide.
I'm sorry, back one more. Yeah, here.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Are any of these styles being built, or is that just showing council what could happen?
Yep. So this is actually the guideline for the developer. If they would like to enter into and develop the lots in any of these types, they are able to do so upon approval of this pattern book. So at this time, they don't have any of the townhome lots proposed, but that's not to say if they start developing residences that they wouldn't be able to at that point in time.
And these would all be new. None of these styles
Correct.
would be in the original pattern book.
Correct. There'd be a lot of the same, in terms of like keeping the existing, kind of design standards fairly similar. There wouldn't be any real changes in that regard.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council for Matt? If not, thank you, Matt, and I know you'll be here.
Your Honor, if I may, just
yes.
I was going to point out to Councilman Felder's questions. The landscape designs are in the packet at page 195. That goes for a couple of pages, and then the list of plantings that are approved under that begins at page 198. And there's discussion of ground cover and landscape, and I think a lot of that would be responsive to the questions that were being posed.
Awesome.
I understand this, Matt. Does Infinity Homes have to follow the original pattern book plus the 2.0 or only the 2.0?
For these 4 parcels, so the blue area that was highlighted, they would follow this 2.0 pattern book.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt. If there's no other questions, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing regarding item 4264, PUD 23-001, proposed Mason Run Amendment, and this is the public hearing. So just if there's comments of those present here this evening, just mindful of the rules of the chamber. You have 3 minutes. Please make sure you identify yourself, your jurisdiction of residence, and because I know there's many here, if you have conversations, please present them to the council who's making the decision, not necessarily others that are here. So any comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing? Any comments from those present? Yes, sir.
Hi. John Summers, Michigan Avenue. Good evening, everybody. So I attended the last meeting that was going on about this that I was invited to by the city. And I just wanted to, again, come and speak how I felt about this. I know you said I only have 3 minutes, so I'll try to make it quick here. Again, so I want to paint a picture of an area that is a wetland. It's very beautiful. There's osprey, eagles, geese, ducks, deer, all sorts of other beautiful creatures that live back there. And what is going on here is being proposed is to essentially wipe them out of their home to help modern urbanization or what you were saying about what the council wanted was to help building initiatives. So I'm here to speak for them and for the people who live around there and who enjoy these animals. And what I think is being proposed here is absolutely wrong. You're wiping out Mother Nature one step at a time. And I heard what Matt say something about maximizing green space. You're not maximizing any green space, Matt. You're
Sir,
taking green space.
Talk to us, please.
You're taking green space away. So there's no green space being maximized. What's happening here is Reno here is coming in here with his building crew, and he's going to knock down all the trees, and he's going to annihilate this wetland, and all these animals aren't going to have nowhere to go. And I think that is just absolutely wrong. And I know that there's a big thing going on for a tax initiative because DT is closing down. So obviously that's a big thing for the council. And I understand what's going on, tax revenue and all that. But what's happening here is absolutely wrong. And the photos that I saw of those big homes, you're backing up those big homes to a neighborhood that looks nothing like that, which is separated by a ditch, which is actually a Mason Run, which is the name of this neighborhood. So what you're doing is essentially putting very beautiful homes and ultra rich people next to the poor people, and you're separating us by a ditch. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. And everybody can call it whatever they want and everything like that. That's cool, but that's what's about to happen here. And I just figured I would come here and at least say my piece to everybody in here. Now, that's the gist of it. So you're going to be putting these big, beautiful homes behind a neighborhood that's just middle to lower class, which is okay. I live in it. And in the meantime, all the animals, all the wildlife, all the peace and quiet, all the serenity, and the reason why I bought my home here 5 years ago was because of that. And now you're going to take that away because Infinity Homes is at our back door again. And I'm sorry. I guess my big question is also, too, what has Infinity Homes done for this community? There was a river raising cleanup recently. I was there. My girlfriend was there. Mr. Mayor was there. A few of you guys were there. I didn't see Reno there. I didn't see anybody there helping clean up. So what are they doing for our community? What are they doing for our kids? If they built them a baseball field, are they doing anything great for anybody around here? Because I don't see it that way.
Thank you.
And that's how I feel about it all. So again, I understand what Matt said at the very beginning when he said zoning is preferable. So,
John, last comment, please.
Okay, that's what I hope does not happen tonight. But I know progress is progress, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Other comments from those present here this evening? No, please hold on. If you allow the clapping and the cheers, then you got to be willing to take the boos, and that's not what we do. I appreciate that you have an interest. I'm really glad everybody's here because that's what makes our community is not just those that are sitting here. It's all the community. So I do appreciate all the comments, but I want to hear them collectively from each and everybody here if they wish to speak, but thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? Other comments for this public hearing? If there are no other comments, I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is under council action, item 4267, ALCC Steering Ad Hoc Committee.
Robinson?
Yes, Your Honor. As you're aware of the development that is occurring down at the ALCC, to include the library, the learning bank, and the MDOC. MCOP. And so what we're looking to, we've met with all of those on mutual occasions and along with the designers that are approved, and they've taken their input. They're working on the designers, and what we would like to do is create a steering ad hoc committee. And we're asking for 2 city council members to be on that committee along with myself, the economic development director, and the human resources director, and our legal counsel, in order to see this project through fruition. And I must note the councilwoman who isn't here tonight with an excused absence did express interest via email to me. That'd be Councilwoman Germaini.
So, Mr. Robinson, I guess what you're asking is you're looking for interest of the council members here if they wish to serve on this ad hoc committee. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And we know that we received, or there was you received a communication from, and the clerk did as well, regarding Councilwoman Germaini has an interest to serve, correct?
Yes, sir.
There are others that have an interest on the council to serve on this. I think we probably have more than one, but we'll see. Councilman Lamore.
Thank you. Meeting times, what time are we considering to have our meetings for the committee?
Mark, do you know what time?
Based around the availability of the committee.
I know. I would say, appointments are filling items such as this. They've come from council in the past. I can think of one occurrence. Another, if we form committees, sometimes they're done through really taking on the consideration what you're saying. When is the meeting going to be? What's the load of council members on other committees? What's maybe a desire? What's been their participation to date? There's many factors that can be taken in, but right now I guess the manager is just looking to see who has an interest. Councilman, okay, so you have 4 that are here and 1 that's not here that has an interest of getting 2 people to serve on this committee, because I'd have an interest as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like actually to put my recommendation towards Councilwoman Vining. I think she is very particularly situated to have some good insight on this project, as it's mostly going to be utilized for the library expansion.
Well, I haven't been to the meetings because we didn't form this committee till now. I know that it is a library expansion, but that's only 1/3 of what the project is. And it's always been about how we move forward with the opportunity, the ALCC, as we transform now as the Opportunity Center at the ALCC that MCOP currently manages. It's also the same building in which the library provides services at within our library. And there's an item on our agenda tonight regarding the Learning Bank, which comes after this one, about that partnership as well and how that transforms into the building. So I agree, it is a significant transformation of the library services, and I think that's where that and the Opportunity Center started, and then that's where we came with conversation about the Learning Bank. So, Councilwoman Vining, I know that you've sat on some of the discussions already, and obviously has an interest as within the Precinct 3 as well. So you were not then asking?
I'm not asking.
Okay, I thought you raised your hand. Good.
And it also makes sense, as you said, sir, that it is her precinct.
Yeah, it is. So I know Councilwoman Stilgrave, you have an interest as well? Okay. I know that Councilwoman is having some talking, but she's here, and I think that was an affirmative. So I will, I think the information will come to the council as a whole, and I'll be willing to wait for that. So I think we have 3 councilwomen that wish to serve on this. Unfortunately, one's not here to say her piece other than an interest. So, Mr. Robinson, you're looking to make this as a motion this evening, is that correct?
Yes, I'm looking for the council to move to actually appoint 2 members to this actual committee.
Councilman Felder, you have a comment?
Would it be appropriate to make a motion, or are you looking for more discussion?
You can
I
make
think it'd be appropriate to make a motion.
Sure, you make a motion, we'll see if there's a second, then we'll take a vote, but but it might be a matter of, you know, you could say two, hold on, two, there could be two of the three that were recommended, and then, and if it doesn't pass, we don't know why it didn't get recommended.
Can I ask, is there a reason why we're holding it to 2 and not just letting all 3 on the committee?
That's because the administration's putting forward to us in this fashion.
Well, we could motion whatever we
We
don't
sure
want,
could,
please.
I know
couldn't we?
that, but there may be a reason why the manager, I guess I can ask him.
I think legitimately, number one, we want to be considerate of your time and your busyness on other committees, but we also want to be careful that we don't get close to having a quorum, which would require a public meeting act as well. So that's why the numbers are limited. And I'll be honest, I'm happy that there are so many that want to be part of that steering committee. But you know, I don't have any problem with asking for an amended motion to add 3.
Councilman Felder.
I'd like to move to appoint Councilwoman Germaini, Councilwoman Vining, and Councilwoman Steelgrave to serve on the ad hoc ALCC steering committee.
There's a motion, is there a second? I know that two of well, it can be from anybody. I heard a whisper from Councilwoman Steelgrave, she supports the motion, is that correct? Yes, okay. Any questions with the motion or the second by those present, or those, Councilwoman?
I have a question for the city manager.
Sure.
Can you tell me again who's gonna, who's not on council, who will be sitting on this steering committee?
Yeah, I gotta find it. It's
I know.
myself, the economic director, the economic development director, the economic development deputy director, the human resources director, and I think a city engineer.
So
And
on the fact sheet, it says the city manager, director of economic development, city engineer, director of human resources, and deputy director of economic development, along with the 3 that are being motioned here this evening.
And so, will anybody from the Monroe County Library System be on this committee?
No,
No.
actually,
And nobody from the Opportunity Center?
the meetings that we have held so far have been the opportunity for the people who are occupying this building or propose to occupy this building to give the designers, the engineers, and everybody who's designing the whole architectural plan the opportunity to express their needs, how much office space, how much space you need this, doing their whole needs session. So at this point, there's no longer somebody on the committee from those places. However, all of those entities will be updated every step as we go through this.
Hmm. So,
Councilwoman?
yeah, I think that, I appreciate, Andrew, you making the motion to nominate me to be on this steering committee, but I think I'm gonna decline and, let you all. Ms. Mayor, you said you had a desire to be on there, so.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a motion and a second, and so we should probably take that vote, and then, or it's, you know, that's what we should do. So, looking at Mr. Buds, but, you know, we have somebody that was, well, I guess I would say, Councilwoman Vining is not accepting to be considered on the committee. So maybe I'll go back to the original motion to Councilman Felder, if you would, then I'll see if the supporter agrees or not. Are you willing to amend your motion not to include Councilwoman Vining, who is asked not to serve? Or do you just want to?
I want to compel her.
Well, you can't compel. That's not what we're here for. To compel other council members to go against what they have chosen to do.
Yeah, and we have council comments, so
Yeah.
of course I'll expound on that.
Okay.
At that time. Thank you.
I will amend my motion to include the two remaining councilwomen.
The second was, when Councilwoman supports it. Before we take the vote, I think about this process when it's been a while, because I was going to make it after, I'll do it right now. You know, we've had a long conversation about the ALCC when we partnered with the MCOP. And then, of course, we received funding to transform the Opportunity Center, which included the library, included then later when Learning Bank information came up. And the partners that are involved with that discussion have been included. In fact, it was the partners in administration, not the council, that was part of those discussions. And being that the building is owned by the city and the property is owned by the city, well, maybe if the next item passes, all of it will. It comes back to the administration to put forward the ideas, thoughts, and input by the partners that are going to be there. Because sooner or later, we have to get a direction to the contractor, the developer, and finalize what it is going to be moved forward with the input we've already received, but also the input internally. Because the end, it is the city's facility, and we have to manage that. We have a contractual relationship with MCOP to run the Arthur Lettleso Community Center, and we have a contractual relationship with the Monroe County Library System to provide services at the library. And of course, then the Learning Bank has been a partner for years in providing those services to our community. And the idea was how to bring that under one umbrella, so we're having this informative, educational, and opportunity for our community to learn and grow together from different ages, different levels. So that's how we got here. So with that, there's a motion and a second. The comment? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Stillgrave? Vining?
No.
Clark?
Yes. 5 votes, that's carries forward moves forward. Clerk, next item, please.
Next item is item 4262, acceptance of 1102 East First Street property donation from First Merchants Bank.
Mr. Robinson.
I'd like to ask Economic Development Director Mark Cochran to explain this acceptance of this property.
Thank you. Mark?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Mark Cochran, Director of Economic and Community Development. As you're aware, a couple years ago in 2021, we did a space analysis on the Opportunity Center, or the ALCC facility that includes the Opportunity Center and the library, to take a look and see if the space was enough and had the capacity to serve the needs of the operators and the users, both in the current and what they would like to do and what the vision is for the campus. At that time, it didn't, and so we did the space analysis working with Kohler Architecture and the partners, which called for the expansion, the renovation of the existing facility. At that time, it included an addition on the north side of the building that would include incorporating the Learning Bank into the new facility, the new renovated and expanded facility. When we started working with our state legislators and others to find funding to implement the master plan and the vision, First Merchants Bank was a very willing partner at the table to help support us with the donation, committing, when we applied for the funding to the state, committing to donate the property that showed local commitment and partner commitment on the expansion renovation project. And so tonight, we're asking for City Council to officially accept the donation from First Merchants Bank. They're ready to move forward with the transfer of the property to the city. As the committee that was just appointed by City Council moves forward with the design of the project, it is still the intent to find a way to have the Learning Bank incorporated into the facility, along with the library system, the Opportunity Center, and MCOP, and the Learning Bank, as was originally called for in the Space Analysis Master Plan.
Questions for Mr. Cochran? Councilwoman Vining.
So when they if we vote to make this transfer, have you had conversations about how the Learning Bank will continue on with their services and resources?
That was a commitment that First Merchants wanted to make sure of, that with the conveyance of the property to the city, that the Learning Bank would always have a place to operate, whether it's in the existing facility or in the expanded, renovated new facility. And that's a commitment that we're going to make and that we've made to them. And also we've had discussions both with the former director, Vancia, before she retired, as well as Lydia, the new director at the Opportunity Center, talking about what the transition is going to look like. Really, there's going to be no change for the Learning Bank, until such point we get them into their final new home in the expanded facility.
Okay, so they won't be without a space at any time during this process?
No, not at all. Everything, all of their existing arrangements that they had with the bank will continue along with the city of Monroe, and we'll be responsible for the maintenance of the facility going forward.
Okay.
Councilman Felder.
That was one of my questions. I know that there are certain applications that we are waiting on for funding and approval for when this moves forward, because this project was initially, it came out that we anticipated it cost more than we initially expected. So while we apply for those funds and wait to hear back, what do we think the timeline is before we're breaking ground and having to demolish this building and have the Learning Bank move to a different facility, or move with, I think they're being included in this, the new facility. How long before that building is going to be demolished and incorporated into the larger project?
It'll be a while, because we're not planning, based on the current schedule for the project that we've worked through with Kohler Architecture, we're not planning to break ground until later next summer or early fall anyway. And so nobody will be displaced or without a home until construction is completed. So next fall is when we plan to break ground. So Learning Bank will stay where they are until the construction is complete and we get them into the space that that they've indicated that they need and want in the new facility.
Okay. Is the timing too early? It seems too early.
So the bank is ready to move forward with the donation now. And certainly we did not want an opportunity to pass us by.
Okay. But as you said, we are now taking over maintenance for the facility until that happens.
Yeah, and we've walked through the facility. We understand what the current maintenance needs and I guess future forward-looking maintenance are for the facility over the next year until we move them. Plus, it incentivizes us to find room for them in the new facility as well, so that we only have to maintain one.
Other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
City Manager, any additional comments? Or just move? Okay. So this is an action item before council regarding the discussion in the Learning Bank facility that's currently owned by First Merchants Bank. Councilman Lamore.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to accept the donation of the Learning Bank property at 1102 East First Street from First Merchants Bank, and authorize the mayor and clerk treasurer to sign the necessary agreements and documents on behalf of the city.
There's a support. Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Stalegrave. On item 4262, the acceptance of 1102 East First Street property donation from First Merchants Bank. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Stillgrave?
Yeah.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 4263, approval of contract for demolition of 615 and 619 South Telegraph Road.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor. Again, this is in regards to the Duffy towing and the Bolodrome area there. And I'd like our Economic Development Director, because there are some specifics about this that you should be aware of, to present.
Good evening again. So as the city manager indicated, the two addresses that are listed for demolition are the former Bolodrome building, as well as the property just to the south of it, which is the former Clausen Dance Studio. Does not include the demolition of Duffy Towing. And so as council authorized, we did acquire and purchase the Bolodrome about a month and a half ago. The building is dangerous, it's blighted, and so the intent was always to purchase it and tear it down due to the deteriorated and dilapidated condition of the building. The Clausen Dance Studio building, this was a building that was ordered demolished by the building official, and that order was upheld by the Construction Board of Appeals. At that time, the property owner was provided notice of the record to demolish the building. At that time, did not disagree with the order. In fact, they were provided an opportunity to appear at the Construction Board of Appeals if they wanted to appeal the demolition order. That did not happen. And then also there was a 21-day appeal period that's afforded anybody whose demolition is upheld by the Construction Board of Appeals, and that 21-day appeal period also lapsed. And so the demolition order was upheld. In that time, there's been little communication with the existing property owner and also no action taken to pull a demolition permit. And so our department did request 3 bids by 3 different contractors to demolish both structures at the same time. The benefit of doing it at the same time is obviously cost efficiency with mobilization of contractors. The low bid was David C. Hoffman and Sons for the demolition of 615 and 619 South Telegraph Road. The city is paying for the demolition of the Bolodrome building out of the local site revolving fund. If you'll recall, recently the city council provided a grant to the Downtown Development Authority to do certain demolition activity at the Monroe Optical using the local site revolving fund, and this activity is another eligible expense out of that fund as well. And so the demolitions will be funded by that fund going forward. And then also, because the city does not own the Clausen Dance Studio at 619 South Telegraph, the building owner and the property owner will be responsible for paying that cost back to the city. So just as through the course of business, any property that's demolished by the city is the responsibility of the property owner. They will receive an invoice, and if that's not paid, it will go on the property taxes to pay the city back.
Questions for Mr. Cochran? Councilman Felder?
Yes, you had mentioned that the Duffy Towing building was not included.
Correct.
Is there an expectation for it to be included in the future?
No, we don't plan to demolish it.
Okay, but there is a connecting wall between those buildings.
Yep, and so we'll work with an architect to make sure that no damage is done to the Duffy Towing building as we demolish the other 2.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions for Mr. Cochran? Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So this is a council action item 4263 for council's consideration. Councilman Lamore?
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion to award a demolition bid to David C. Hoffman and Sons Incorporated for the demolition of 615 and 619 South Telegraph Road, an amount of $104,925 with an additional 15% contingency of $15,738.75 for a total amount not to exceed $120,663.75. Authorize the city manager to execute the necessary agreements on behalf of the city and authorize the assistant city manager, finance director, to amend the budget for funding from the local site revolving fund.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Felder on item 4263, approval of the contract for demolition of 615 and 619 South Telegraph Road. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 4259, PUD 23-001, proposed Mason Run Planned Unit Development Plan and Pattern Book Amendment adoption.
Mr. Robinson, further?
What we're asking is that you accept the to amend the existing PUD plan and agreement for Mason Run development based on the public hearing and the presentation you received tonight. and approve an additional plan with Infinity Homes and Pattern Book that will be referred to as Mason Run 2.0 Plan and Pattern Book to guide the development of the 4 parcels that you were presented tonight.
Any comments or questions from council?
Your Honor.
Councilwoman Vining?
We had the gentleman step up speaking about wetlands, and it's my understanding that wetlands are protected. And what did Eagle say about these lands? Are there wetlands there?
These are not technically wetlands. These are, this property was originally in 2001 supposed to be developed, and the development ceased in 2008 when the economic downturn and the Crosswinds, who was involved at that moment, they declared bankruptcy, so it ended there. But since 2001, that entire area, to include the Highlands, was intended to be developed into housing. And this is just the first step of a new developer involved in doing that.
Yeah, I know what this is, but I'm asking about, did we have the state agencies come and look at that land? And did they say that, no, those are not wetlands there? Or yes, they are wetlands there?
I'll let Mark Cochran.
I'm asking because I know we have a lot of projects going on, and that's a step, that's a point we get to and we have to prove or disprove. So I'm just curious, what
Yeah.
did the state say, or is the state even involved at this point?
Yeah, certainly we understand, the wetland issue, as we've encountered this on several other projects that the city's been involved in. The city does not regulate wetlands, but what we do require as part of a building permit and what will be required in the PUD agreement is that all licenses and regulatory approvals are received. So at some point, if there is a concern, that'll have to be something that we run past the different regulatory agencies. I know different permits include the Drain Commissioner's Office and others as well as part of development. So this is just, this action tonight is only about the PUD design standards. All of the site plan approvals, the regulatory approvals, the permitting, all of that comes after there's an agreement in place with the developer with the PUD agreement.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Yes.
I thought I heard Mr. Vanasecker say that there was a parcel number that was not quite correct, and I just want to make sure on the agenda if it's correct,
That's all good.
just so I know for minutes, et cetera.
Yes, the parcel number included on the agenda is correct. I just wanted to call out the error on the
Okay, I
application.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that's why, okay. This item's up for council actions, item 4259. Well, Councilman Lamore.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make a motion to amend the existing PUD plan and agreement for the Mason Run Development PUD to remove parcels 59-01788-908, 59-01788-909, 59-01788-910, and 59-01788-905, and approve an additional plan with Infinity Homes and Pattern Book that will be referred to as Mason Run 2.0 Plan and Pattern Book to guide development at parcels 59-01788-908, 59-01788-909, 59-01788-910, and 59-01788-905.
There's a motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Stelgrave on item 4259, the PUD 23-001 proposed Mason Run Plan and Unit Development Plan and Pattern Book Amendment adoption. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Stalgrave? Vining? And Mayor Clark.
Yes. Please.
Next item is item 4272, authorization to unboard and waive fees for 208 East 7th Street.
Robinson. Item,
Yes,
please.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to bring our Public Safety Director, Tolstead, to explain the rationale for our request for waiving these fees in order to unboard this house that was a drug nuisance property.
Members, Chad Tolstead, Director of Public Safety. So I've been talking with Sexton Ward, who's the owner of the house, who was a young man who came before you here a few months ago. We believe in the communications with him. He felt this was the best route to go, was just sell the house and be done with the house. And he has signed with a company called Home Zesters out of Ann Arbor. I believe the bill of sale is still pending. Part of that was they wanted to see the fees which were compiled for the detectives that worked on this investigation, the DPS costs be waived as a part of that, be waived as a part of him closing house and then ultimately turning it over to this company that does remodeling and remodel, and then they would turn around and sell the house. I've spoken with the city manager, city attorney as well. I feel this is the best way to go. The goal of this, to board up this home, was to stop the activity in the neighborhood. We have, I think, achieved that, and that Mr. Mr. Ward wants to move on with his life. I believe this will give him an opportunity to do so, less, $10,000 out of his pocket that he would owe to the city council. This would be contingent upon Mr. Buzz, as I discussed, contingent upon the successful sale of the property and approval, of course, by city council.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Tolstead?
What did you say the name of the company was?
I believe it's Home Zesters with a Z. So like instead of investors, Zesters, like Zestors. I spoke with them several times. Very, very nice on the phone.
So I see the purchase agreement and actually tried to find more information. Is it between Sexton Ward and here are the sellers and Big Waters Properties? Is that like the overall company name, and then there's other groups in there?
That would be what I would assume. I didn't call them, ask them specifically, because I looked at that document as well and saw the other company name on there. That would be my guess. It's one company under a bigger name company.
So I guess I'll have to ask again because I didn't write it down.
With the Home Zesters?
Home.
That's who they identify themselves to me as well. When I got the paperwork as well, I believe it was Home Zesters is probably under the umbrella of this other company.
So I'll just say I looked up Big Waters Properties, and they're across the country. They're in different states. They have Michigan office as well, and I might have missed the second part of this. So. Have we had conversation with that company, the Homes and Zesters?
Yep, I have spoken with them several times. So some of the concern I know was raised by some of the folks I've talked to, that this would simply just be turned over to another family member in the behaviors. The activity at the home would continue. Sexton, Mr. Ward has assured me he wants to move on from this, and the company in which he's selling to has no affiliation with his family that I'm aware of.
So I'm looking at the city attorney. I don't even know if this is even appropriate to do, but we have an issue, which of course was about the activities there that the neighborhood obviously felt the brunt of and had concerns. And of course, the public safety got involved. The house was closed and boarded, and it's boarded still currently. And this is an opportunity to turn it into a viable property for residential use and as you said, I think everybody to move on. So we understand that part. But I'm thinking of the assurances that I think as a council member, I'm looking for to make sure it doesn't drift back somewhere. But so I to where it gets back to some use that's right back where we started. And I'm not saying a person can't own property. I can't, and I appreciate when Mr. Ward came and spoke, and the others spoke, and as we worked through this as a council, and of course made the decision for the time frame which it would be boarded up, just for the sake of the neighborhood and the community. So, selling this, I wouldn't want to revert back. Councilman Lamore, you have a question?
Yeah, not a question, maybe, possibly, hopefully, a little bit of an answer. I think that the parent company, I'm sorry, what was the name again?
The Home Zesters. The parent company, was it Big Rapids, I believe? Was
Big
that
Waters Properties LLC.
Bi-
The other one is just the franchisee of Big Waters. That would be my assumption. And we should be able to do some investigating on that. I'm not certain. I'll ask city attorney and city manager, have we done any investigating on such franchisee?
So I will say I've had a conversation with the representative, Miss Mathewson, that her email is a Home Vestors email. It's with a V. And if you look them up, they, I'll say advertise as being a place that buys houses on a regular basis. I'll say this is their mode of business. I did not specifically ask the question, and I will say I'm operating under somewhat of a same assumption that Director Tolstead is, that they likely operate under a number of different LLCs that are local to the jurisdiction, the state where they are operating. But if you look them up, it's homevestors.com. Look, I'll say it that they are a offer cash, flip, move on kind of operation. I mean, I'll say I don't know that they do this, but it reminds me in their advertising of the see a sign by the side of the road, call us for cash for houses fast kind of deal. I don't know that they do those signs. I'm not saying that's the deal, but if you look at their advertising material, it's similar in some ways to that. I did specifically have the conversation that I knew that a question kind of along these lines was likely to come up. They have no connection to Mr. Ward. They understand that the city's desire is not to have that property go back to being in the condition that it is, and would understand if council took additional action relative to that property. If any of the same type of activity occurred, they anticipate a period of time for renovation and repair, and then back on the market. That's the representations. We don't have that in an agreement. We have their purchase offer, and they're saying as part of their due diligence in purchasing from Mr. Ward, that they would be asking that they be able to get in there and begin their renovation process now rather than in December, and that the property be unboarded. And I'll say, to the extent that they ask it to be unboarded, and they're asking that some of the boards actually remain because there's been some damage. So I took that as a sign of, yes, they want to keep the property that they're willing to make an investment in protected and get it renovated and back on the market. But again, that's representations that have been made. I normally take those as in good faith, but we don't have any specific agreement as to any of those points.
And to kind of further the city attorney's point was the value, the cash value which they offered them was lower than what Mr. Ward was expecting because of how much renovations they had to put into the home. So I know they are interested in doing the renovations to the home.
For me, that information helps. Thank you both. Other questions or comments? Okay. This is an action item for council, 4272.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to waive the associated fees of $10,198.20 for 208 East 7th Street that was deemed a drug nuisance property on 5/1/23 by City Council upon successful property sale.
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Vining. On item 4272, authorization to unboard and waive fees for 208 East 7th Street.
If I may, I don't know if it was my not hearing correctly or if I didn't catch it. That was also to unboard the property upon that successful closing, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, understand. Correct, Councilwoman, as well? To unboard, correct?
Yes.
Motion, okay, I want to make sure we got it
I
clear.
was just trying to see.
Specifically in the motion. Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Please make sure that is included, because that's, the title says on board, and then the motion has about the fees, so we have to make sure we include that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Buds. So there's a amendment to that from the maker and the second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Steelgrave? Vining? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is item from the consent agenda, 4266, Professional Services Agreement, Parks and Gateway Signage Design.
Felder.
I just wanted to verify, this is for the design only of these signs. This isn't for the installation. Is that my understanding?
That is correct.
Signs are there?
Good evening. So in last year's capital improvements project, we had allocated, if I recall correctly, it was $350,000 to work on 10 new park signs, as well as, I think, 3 or 5 gateway signs, monument signs, welcome to the city of Monroe, across the city. But what was appealing about this proposal as well is we're planning for all the park signs in the future. So while in the next year we're moving toward site plan design and construction for the 10 signs and the welcome gateway monument signs, we're also planning in all of the city parks what the coordinated theme and look of the signs is going to be, and then identify the location for future funding as well. So we anticipate in this year's CIP programming, funding the rest of the park signs and other gateway signs so that they all have a cohesive look and feel. So the question is, part of the design is for all the parks and all the gateways, but we're looking forward to construction next year of 10 park signs and 3 or 5 gateway monument signs.
It has been my understanding that up to this point, Director Egan has primarily led the effort of the rebranding process for the city. And I know that we heard from Amy Moore earlier this evening, and it sounds like she's a wonderful asset and addition to that department. Are we unable to design these ourselves in the department with our current digital assets?
So we had looked at doing some in-house design. Part what we want to do and partly why we're bringing forth the proposal from Ed, just because they've done very attractive work all across the region in terms of park signage. We have what was recommended in the initial city branding, but in terms of finding the best spot for a wide array of signs, whether it be a singular post sign at some of our smaller neighborhood parks or larger monument signs that have landscaping around them, and trying to find the best location. For example, at Veterans Park and St. Mary's Park, where should it be? What are the best design principles and practices that are out there for signage, much like we did on the Lazy Boy site? We're desiring to move forward with Edge, which is a professional landscape firm, to guide us on these decisions. And also, to add to that, when the final signs are designed, we will bring the proposal before the Planning Commission as well. Because after the Recreation Advisory Commission was eliminated, the intent was for site plans and park improvements to go before the Planning Commission for their recommendation and approval as well. So that's the intent once the final designs are chosen, selected.
Okay.
These are good questions, a good conversation, because with not just the rebranding, which is really meant for years, but one of the aspects that I took from this, besides what was shared in the conversation, was the company and the group they're using, but the project lead is a registered landscape architect as well. And I think, well, it's sign design, but also placement. I think it's got to flow and work together. So I just something I wanted to add that was in the sheet as well. Other questions or comments from council? If not,
I'm just cheaper than I used to be. I see the prices on these things. I just want to make sure it's congruent with the services that are being rendered. It just seemed steep to me. But with that, I will make a motion. Oh, if I can find it. I will make a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Edge Group in an amount not to exceed $41,100 for the city parks and gateway signage schematic and design development, that the Director of Economic and Community Development be authorized to enter into a purchase order for the above, and authorize the Director of Economic and Community Development to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 4266, professional service agreement, parks and gateway signage design. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Steelgrave? Vining? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
4265, authorization to purchase furniture for second floor renovation.
Councilman Felder.
Well, in line with the last one, I suppose, cost is a factor with this as well. I believe that we weren't here too long back while I was complaining about the purchase of the council chairs and how I thought that was a bit much as well for my blood, but maybe I just have something against chairs. I just have one simple question. What is the benefit of this purchase to the residents?
I'll look to Mr. Robinson. I might have a follow-up
Well,
question to that. It's more than the residents, but go ahead.
Well, it's just the benefit from our residents. Number one, this was approved through the capital improvement fund at the program that was funded in the budget that was approved by council. Secondly, the furniture I have in my office, it's part of this which makes up $11,000 out of this budget, is from 1978. It's the same original furniture, and I think that there are certain times when I'm reading. For example, we have a Japanese dignitaries coming into our town from our sister city, and when we meet with professionals, we meet with congressmen, we meet with other individuals, and when I have meetings with the people from our public, I think it goes to erode our professionalism when our furniture is 50 years old, and I think that I think we need to look like a professional organization to function like one. Also, with this whole project, the economic development and community development department undertook massive organizational change. And in order to fix that organizational change, there is going to be certain furniture in a certain position, and it's going to be to where they can all communicate with each other in order to better facilitate their working together. And part of the furniture is part of that plan, along with the Human Resources Office, which also has got furniture dating back late 70s. So I think there's times that, some of the chairs have ripped arms in my office. Some of the things are uncomfortable, and the desks are not functional for today's technologies. They're not suitable for that. And I think it's important to understand that we also have to give could our guys go out there and chop a tree down with a hatchet? But no, we buy them a chainsaw. So I'd like to use that as the same thing, is you want to have things that better help our people deliver the service. And we just so happen to be the people that are on the second floor that are asking to have the better equipment in order to deliver the service.
Councilman, further?
What are we doing with the old furniture?
We're doing
We actually discussed this on Friday, I believe it was. So what the city typically does with our old furniture and old fixtures and all of our surplus equipment is auction it off. We work with once we have a large quantity amount, we contract with an auctioneer and sell it, and the city retains the profit from that. With Impact moving into the third floor of City Hall, we're going to offer them the furniture because just as city manager was talking about a lot of the city furniture being old and not in very good condition, the same as with Impact. So with them moving upstairs, we would offer it to them and then also auction it just as we do all of our other surplus furniture and equipment.
Thank you, sir.
Further? Good. Other questions or comments on this item? This was moved from the consent agenda for council action, and we'll need a motion, second, and a vote.
To authorize the purchase of office furniture for second floor offices from ISCG Incorporated, in the amount of $95,656.46. That the Director of Economic and Community Development be authorized to enter a purchase order for the above and authorize the director to execute the necessary agreements on behalf of the city.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Seelgrave on item 4265, authorization to purchase furniture for second floor renovation. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore? Yes. Felder? Yes. Whitman? Yes. Stilgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item,
I
please.
have no further items this evening, Your Honor.
Items, so next is council comments. Councilwoman Germaine is not here, so we'll start with Councilman Lamore.
Me, went to visit the port yesterday at their open house / heritage days. They really did a nice job of showing the benefit of our port in the city of Monroe. All the different activities they had going on down there, not to mention just the visual of everything that's on site there is really incredible. It goes to show some of the actions that we've done here in council that have come to fruition, and there's more to come. Our port is growing, it's doing great things, and it's going to be an economic vehicle for the city of Monroe. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Felder.
Yes, sir. A couple of upcoming events and then a sadder note. The opioid summit is coming up on October 4th. I believe they're looking for some community input, so I think you can find more information about that event online. I know that was being disseminated through the Great Star Collaborative, but it should be a very inclusive and informative discussion. I look forward to participating in it. And then also, the Monroe County Museum System is having their October night come up on October 13th and 14th out at the Navarre Trading Post. So that's always been a good old time as well. On a sadder note, Monroe Public Schools lost its choir director very unexpectedly. And it not only is a loss for the family and the community, but puts the students in a very uncomfortable position as well. So just, thoughts going out to everyone involved in that scenario.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have for this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman Whitman.
I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
Councilwoman Stilgrave, you have a lot? No, okay. I hope you are feeling better. Councilwoman Viney.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I wanted to briefly touch on why I chose not to be a part of this newly formed ALCC ad hoc committee. I know maybe Mr. Cochran or somebody this evening mentioned that partners were included up to this point or whatever, but I just wanted to make it clear that, in my opinion, partners were barely included. Like, I've been asking about this for a couple years. For a little background, we started this process pre-COVID, and then COVID put a stop to moving forward with the project. And then when we had a chance to do more design, we abruptly shifted our focus into building a police station. That took a lot of work, maybe over a year of meeting. I was on that committee, so I know it took a lot of work. We started with a committee that we formed for the police department, and we moved through the whole process with that same committee, down to the furniture, down to the landscaping, everything. And it was a very informative process, how we developed this from nothing to something. Same thing with the fire department. I also served on that committee in certain capacities. And so when we come back to visit very recently here, the building of what I kept saying was the library, it was brought to my attention recently through a conversation that Mr. Mayor and I had, because I kept saying, we're building a library, and I kept asking the question, how can you build a library without involving library staff? I asked, if you recall, why didn't we use library architects? Because there are certain things in the building of a library that you need to be familiar with that are different from building other buildings, just like with police stations and things like that. So finally, I understood what in my conversation with Mr. Mayor, that no, we're not building a library. Let me take it back for a second. I realized in a conversation with the architects that the city's focus was to build a community center with library services. So therefore, if the focus is not going to be on the library, I don't think it's necessary for me to tie up my time that I could be doing other things, being on a committee to develop the community center. I feel that the people that'll be on this committee have been working hard since MCOP took over the facility to make sure that it grows and grows and grows. So I think I need to be focusing on the library and advocating in that area instead of being on a committee to further build the community center, because I know that everybody now that I've spoken with is saying, no, we're not building a library, but in the original design, that's what it was. And it was written, and I have all the writings, but it always said we were going to have the library and the learning bank, and then a connection. Very minimal work on the community center, but we were going to try to connect it. Okay, so we didn't have enough money for that original design, but up until very recently, the learning bank was, nobody ever had a conversation with the learning bank. Nobody ever had a conversation with the library. So I invited my own self into these meetings based on the fact that I've been employed with the Monroe County Library System for 18 years, and I know everything about the operation of a library, what it needs and how it should function. And even our director, Nancy, she's had a long career, decades-long career, and she's built many libraries, and she's never built a library without the involvement of the library staff. But if the focus is changing now, and I see that it has to expand on the community center, I just don't see that it's necessary for me to be in meetings every week. I can get the reports through as the rest of the council get those reports. It's not to say that I'm not going to be curious, I'm not going to be asking questions, and I'm not going to be focused on it, but I don't need to take time to help this committee build a community center with funding that I was under the impression was going to be used to build a library. So I won't get into all my personal feelings about how this whole ad hoc committee even came into existence. I'll leave that alone. But I will ask this committee and Ms. Germaine, who's not here at this time, to please don't take away from the library. Don't take away from it, because while we're sitting up here talking about taking those $7.8 million to expand on the community center, plus the $2.5 million that's hopefully coming down the pipeline, the library ceiling fell in, and guess what? The tiles are still sitting there, and we're working every day with our group with exposed ceiling, and cracked tiles that I've been begging to have replaced for years. So please don't take away. If you can, try your best to add to the facility because it's needed. And I've spoke enough times about the work that we do in that particular branch, which is in this complex that we want to develop and build. That particular branch, we do a lot of extra services because of the need in the area. So, I mean, I don't know how else to make you all understand that, but that's all I would ask. So I just wanted to say that to people who would be disappointed that I don't want to serve on the committee. I just wanted to kind of give them a understanding of why I don't. So I'm gonna be checking up on it though every chance I get, but I don't have the time nor the energy nor the desire to go through all of the changes and turnarounds about it. So I hope in a couple years, whenever we're done, we have a wonderful facility. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple comments that I have. This past week, we had a visit from the former mayor of our sister city from Hofu, Japan, Mayor Matsura. As he was doing other business within our country, he made a special stop to visit Monroe and had an opportunity to meet with those that have, over the years, been a participant and had visited Japan as well. That leads to the second part of this, is this, our sister city, we have a student exchange relationship until the pandemic, and now we've not had it here for the past 4 years or so. However, the Hofu is sending a delegation to the city of Monroe that'll be arriving here on Friday to talk about how we reconnect, and they are prepared and ready to initiate the student exchange again. So I'm looking forward to that visit, as well as how we move forward with that. And working with our schools, all schools and countywide that may have students that might have an interest. So I guess I want to, just a follow-up to the discussion on the earlier, and then in our comments about the project at the Opportunity Center, Navarre Library, and Learning Bank. So as I recall, when we started this process, and to where we are now, I'm going to start in January of this year. January of this year, as we were meeting. It's the one meeting I went to because it was the initial meeting. I think we were both at the meeting, Councilwoman, but it was about the timeline and how we were going to do things. And then we had I remember this chart. And I think that there's information from that I would request that administration share with the council. But it's started of who was going to be in charge at what point, and how do we get input, and how do we move forward. And it was with I'll just say the construction company, but also then the management company, which is AUK. And then how they were going to then bring it back to city council. And of course, that's when some of the adjustments occurred. You think $7.8 million would go a long way, but it doesn't go quite as long as what we had planned for. So I look at this, and I always have, is thinking, how do we best serve the community? Every of the needs that we talked about, whether it be the Opportunity Center, the ALCC, I'll start there, the library, Navarre Library, and the Learning Bank, and the conversations came to how do we unify these and provide the service to the community that's needed in a broad sense. Individually, each of them have their own hours of operation, and there are times when we would be closed when the operation could continue within one facility. It's just the reality of how do we make the best use of the space we have, and how do we share space. And that's where the conversation then grew. And I wasn't part of the rest of the discussions where the MCOP, the administration, the library services that were present at those discussions. So as we said earlier, that was a collection of information of what would the needs were and what would best work for this situation. Sure, we'd like to all have individual locations, but that's not the reality of when you talk about cost effectiveness and efficiencies, because there are timelines, I think, in a shared space where, just as some other libraries where they have community rooms associated to them here in the county, and how we're going to have to share the space. We don't want to be conflicting. We have to share the time when it's available. And I think I look forward to seeing how this continues to move forward. I do have an interest, and I do have a passion for this, and I would like to sit on the committee. But I want to leave this to the council members to make that as it comes forward. I too will be asking and looking as we move forward. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
Just briefly, absentee ballots were sent out last Thursday. I have checked around as I usually do, and I've heard that a good number of people have received theirs as of Saturday. So if you haven't, I would give it a few more days, but I wouldn't wait much longer than that. Feel free to contact our office if you believe you requested a ballot and haven't received it yet, and we'll be glad to help you out with that. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else, Your Honor.
Thank you. Manager Robinson?
Just 3 items tonight. I'd like to remind the public that beginning October 9th, we will be starting the courtyard project between us and the county. I want to let everybody know that City Hall will be open, normal business hours, You just may have to follow some signs and walk in some extra doors or doors that aren't the main front ones at all times. Just follow the signage. We will always be open just like normal, and that is part of the project plan. So that begins October 9th, and I just want everybody to know that we are not closed. We do business during our regular business hours. Second, I also want to remind everybody about the leaf bags that the city provides for leaf collection. They'll be from 2:30 to 5:30, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays throughout the month of October. And then there'll be special hours on Saturday, October 7th and October 14th from 8 to 12. You can get these at the Department of Public Services building on Jones Avenue. And my last comment is I'd like to allow my Public Safety Director, Tolstead, he would like to make a comment about an upcoming event.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you for the time. Chad Tolstead, Director of Public Safety. So just a couple of comments I wanted to make for the earlier fire marshal, and thank a few people. Terry Davis with the city, GIS, was been a great partner with helping develop some of that fire marshal stuff. The PowerPoint that you saw there was developed by our own communications department. Jody Egan did a great job. And Mark Cochran and his staff and Laura Bennis has also been a great partner with the fire marshal program. But really what I want to talk to you about tonight, just make a couple comments, is the Faith in Blue event we're hosting again this Friday from 5 to 7 at the Opportunity Center. And then at 7:30, we'll be doing the movie Zootopia. So what this event is about, it was formed by a Reverend Markel Hutchins in 2020, and it's about bringing community, law enforcement, and faith-based communities together to build a stronger community. So we'll have the state police out there. They're going to bring one of their canines out. The sheriff's office is bringing their posse out. There'll be horse rides with the posse. They'll also have a trooper out there themselves. We'll have Buddy, our therapy dog, out there. If you're interested in seeing Buddy again, it makes everybody feel better. But our community partner, Second Missionary Baptist Church, will be doing the invocation at the start of the event. We'll have our own chaplains from the Public Safety Department out there as well. We've invited other people out there. So some of the other Community Coalition of Churches will be doing some songs. Hope Not Handcuffs will be out there, which council approved some time ago to sign the MOU. They'll be out there. Fresh Start Coffee House, Clean Slate Program. But these last three I mentioned, you can kind of see it fit in with what we're trying to accomplish, which is to help build better communities within us. The Hope Not Handcuffs puts us in a great position as a city to help people, those addicted to drugs and alcohols. The Fresh Start Coffee often hires ex-people who have been convicted of crimes and want a fresh start, hence the name Fresh Start. And then our Clean Slate program brought in from the state to help kind of expunge some things for people's records that have once been committed of crimes. A couple of items, we'll have open basketball, gym, cornholes, a DJ, movie night. We'll be showing a Zootopia. And I want to thank the Parks and Rec Department for sponsoring that Zootopia movie. That was a big lift. It was a last minute item. We went to Parks and Rec, and they were willing to be a great partner with us. Amaya's will be out there to serve Mexican food similar to what was at the River Raisin Cleanup. Ice cream trucks, the coffee, and our sponsors, Allen Chevy, Dynamic Transportation, Spartan Insurance, and Gruel Automotive. And one of our main partners, it would be the Sheriff's Office on the events, Class Gray, Aaron Lavender, and the MCOP as well. So I hope you're all able to make it out there this Friday. It's a total events from 5 to 9. Come out and meet some of your local law enforcement officers. So thank you. Cost didn't happen this year logistically. We just went in a different direction. And we won last year, so we're just going to carry that belt with us throughout.
We'll have to see about that. All right. Well, thank you, Director.
Yes.
So we have public comment here this evening. Again, as we had earlier, be mindful of let's have forward name and jurisdiction of address, and mindful of the time for 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Elliot James, 633 Stone Street, and I commend you for not getting on that committee, because I don't know how you're going to build something down on that east side without not having anybody from the east side on that committee. I mean, this is our area, and you have the nerve to come down there and build things without us saying anything about it, that's strange to me. And the reason why you're not on it, you don't want to be blamed for it. Secondly, our bridge when are we going to start on that bridge?
Sure, we have an update, I think, today. Once you get finished, I'll have that, Mr. Cochran speak to that.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I should ask the city manager, but I know that
let's go ahead.
there was a conversation today.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Patrick Lewis just finished up the bid specs this evening, I believe it was, for the Martin Luther King Bridge that went out to bid this evening. It's being posted on the trade network for bids, and we should have the bids. I believe it was 30 or 45 days. We should get those back with construction planned for first thing in the spring.
Thank you. Other comments? I see. I want to welcome State Representative Mr. Oh, go first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kevin Shipman from Stevens Disposal. I just wanted to take a quick minute and maybe give an update or brief. We're 90 days into taking over the contract for the refuge and recycling. From our perspective, it went very smooth, the transition, and we just wanted to, again, address Mayor Clark and Council and thank you for putting your faith in us, and we're looking forward to a long, smooth collection process. So that's it.
Thank you. Now I see Representative Brooks here. Yes, sir.
What, do I have to say my name then?
No, I think we know who you are. You live in Monroe County, I know that.
10406 Cemetery Road. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for being here. It is a pleasure to be here. I don't know, I shouldn't crack jokes about her because she can't talk back, but I don't know if I've ever been to a meeting where Councilwoman Steelgrave has been silent, but she's gonna make me pay for that. But I just want to say hi and make sure people know that I am available and I'm here. I do have a couple follow-ups. We are working on the renaming bill for the road there after Joseph Lidl that went through hearing last week. Will get voted on this week. But I also want to just let you know that I have been in contact with both John Cool and Herbert Smith regarding the railroad, keeping a little pressure on them as far as that embankment. So there's a lot of other things that are going on in Lansing, and not enough time here to list them all, but I am available afterwards if anyone wants to speak, except for Deb. But she can text me. So thank you so much for the time.
Well, thank you for being here. I always ask council if there's a question or item, but if not, I'm sure they can chat with you immediately after.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any comments from those? Yes, please come forward.
Hi, my name is PJ Reinhardt, and I live at 1010 East Front Street. And I think I spoke to several people in the building today about a problem at 1023 East Front Street. It is a rental that has constant blights called on it. There's a makeshift mechanic working out of this facility. People are parking on the wrong side of the street. There's lots of little children right there. They run out, they don't watch. You come around that corner, someone's parked on the wrong side of the street. You don't see them. It's a problem. We've had trash sitting out for two cycles of pickup, and I know the city had to clean up the last garbage. So I was just wondering, my understanding is there's an eviction and that the city attorney is handling that, and I just kind of want to know where we're at with that as a property owner. It makes our little neighborhood that already has a problem on the other side of the street, it makes it look even worse.
Well, thank you. I'm looking at the city manager or Mr. Budget. If they have an update for this, I know this is, I don't believe, as I recall, this come to the council yet, but there's a process of how we get, before it comes to us, if there's resolution, whether with the property owner. I don't have that answer. I don't, manager?
Get your information today, and it has been assigned down through the building department and the DPS department in order to make sure that they were in the blight in order to deal with the issues that you raised in the letter to me. And I'll let our city attorney speak about the process of the eviction process status.
Your Honor and Counsel, this is a matter that we do have a pending case with the property owner that's in circuit court. That was approved some time ago. There was not a formal answer that was filed, and so it's in a default status. But thereafter, the property owner's attorney filed a motion to set aside that default. That has not been heard yet by the circuit court, because we're working with the property owner, who indicates that there's an active eviction pending where the owner is seeking to have the tenant evicted. I don't have a firm update on that. I can get that information from the court docket for you afterwards. But essentially, we're continuing to pursue the owner. We understand the owner is pursuing eviction of their tenant and has made representation that things will be cleaned up as soon as they can have the tenant leave that property.
So make sure that, I'm sure if you've received sent correspondence, they have your phone numbers. Make sure that's with the city manager so he can get back with you in his discussions with the city attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Other comments from those present here this evening? Yes, sir.
Mike Hader, 914 Winston Drive. Just want to let everybody know that our local NAACP chapter 3164 will be having their annual Freedom Fund dinner this weekend, Saturday, 5:30 at the community college. Well, if you need tickets, you can look us up on Facebook. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any final comments? Seeing none?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Felder to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman?
Yes.
Stilgrave? Vining?
Yeah.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Thank you all for being here.